Welcome to Veronica Live, and we are ready to kick off a big show today. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Statesman John Salak. Good morning.
Good morning from FarmCom up north.
Okay, well, I'm on Baycom on the water here. And of course...
Marischal Island time yet?
Well, we've had some teaser days where it's been 90 degrees here and I've almost died. But today it's actually chilly outside and it's still a little overcast from the storms that we had here that were just horrific and took out Tallahassee with some tornadoes, and we started getting the weather radar alarm started going off at 4 a.m. and you're like, oh my gosh. And I'm always like, let's grab the dogs and put them in bed with me. And my husband's like, oh. so we survived, but let's tease the show first and we can talk. Okay. We've got, oh my goodness, guns, girls, and greed. I was a Blackwater Mercenary in Iraq. So Morgan Lerette is going to join us, and the book is, you feel like you're there. You feel like you are at Saddam Hussein's mansion. So I cannot wait to talk to him. I thoroughly, I read a lot of it. I really enjoyed it, actually. I felt like I was there. So I could feel the heat. I could feel the heat, John. So we're going to talk to him because, Blackwater always gets, I don't know, sometimes people aren't pro having these people that protect diplomats. But his book does talk about, he wants accountability with all government agencies. So
and it was interesting because he said that they intentionally cultivated that culture, which I thought was an interesting piece.
Well, I guess when you're going to kill people, you have to have some sort of type A badass culture. So we'll talk to him about that. And then we'll talk about with our tax collector. The Bible never seemed to like tax collectors, but I love our tax collector. So Chuck Perdue will be joining us this morning. We haven't had him on in a long time, so we'll see what's going on. I just had a wonderful experience in his office, so we'll talk about that. And, can't wait to have him on because he's actually a mover and shaker here where we live. And then, of course, Drew Allen from the Drew Allen Show, which is on Patriot TV. And then his podcast will be joining us. And, the roundup this week, John. Oh, my goodness. Every day, like RFK Jr. is happy to kill babies until the day before they're born. I'm done. So I'm going to be very probably radical today because I'm done with, and I joked about it. I tried to give up stupid people for Lent. It didn't work out for me, and God just keeps showering them down. So maybe this is my gift, is that I get to call you out because you're stupid. And is that word like immature to call somebody stupid? I don't know.
No. I think words have meaning, okay? And I think we need to stop being polite to these idiots.
I'm done.
I mean, call them out for what they are,
Yeah.
It really, and maybe that'll get through to them. Maybe it'll register, I don't know.
I don't know, because having been given two gifts of humans, and I already knew, and I say this all the time, life is precious, and we'll talk about it because in our Afterburner stack is the story that you sent over about the woman conceived after a gang rape. So, we've got to talk about that.
Yep, exactly.
Because, I mean...
Life is value.
Life is value.
She thinks it's valuable. Okay.
Right. Could you, can you imagine, and then I think of like that comedian, what's her name? Handler. What the hell's her first name? She's had 3 abortions and she's proud of it. Well, we're done. And
Chelsea Handler?
Yes, Chelsea Handler.
Yeah.
We're done, and we're going to talk about that this morning because, life is precious. It's a gift of God, and I was having lunch with a friend yesterday, and we just were lamenting as 2 Catholic women that have, endured a lot in life. She lost a husband. I've had breast cancer. We faced death. She faced it more than me because I'm still here to talk about it. But life it just changes you. And these people that have everything, that are willing to snuff out a baby, and then, of course, these abortion doctors, I just don't get it anymore. And this tour that Kamala is, going through the country with her, promoting abortion clinics because
let's
women's
call
health
it the
care.
murder babies tour is what she's on.
Yeah, there
murder
you go.
Babies.
There, you labeled it, John. And then the other thing is we're talking about murdered babies. What happened on October 7th in Israel, and then we got these dumbass Princeton students that are on a hunger strike. They're all fat, by the way. So I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that anymore. They're not PHAT like my husband says. They're FAT. And then
right.
Guess what? The dumb Princeton professors decided to join in for 24 hours. So, I sometimes the teen comes out. I just want to flip everybody off. And
it's so funny, though, Veronica. They think 24 hours is a hunger strike. going without eating for 24 hours,
Yeah. These are people that get they can take sabbaticals.
Right.
And, after a 2-hour class, I have to have a break. And I might have to go have a little safe space on campus. I'm like, shut up and color, people. These people would never make it in the military. I mean, you and I have worn the uniform. We signed the dotted line. This world is full of weaklings. And a lot of these weaklings don't have God in their life. So,
well, not only that, Veronica, they have no sense of reality or purpose.
Oh my gosh! Watch the damn video. I've just seen
long
snippets.
Do you think they would last if they actually went over to Palestine? How long do you think they would actually last?
No, those trans men would be strung up, being thrown off buildings. So shut up and color, people. Yep. This is America.
Go over there with your boyfriend, and I'm talking about a guy. Going over there with his boyfriend, and go over there and just start kissing and make it out in public, and watch what happens to you.
Oh my God, their tongues would be slit. Their throats would be slit. Their tongues cut off. So anyways, we have a huge show, and we're going to have a badass in here as our first guest. So guns, girls, and greed, there was girls in that book. I have to comment on that. We're going to talk.
You gotta remember his description of the girls.
I know. So we're going to talk about it. But I'm here with Statesman John Salak. Huge show. We'll be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome to Veronica Live, and we are here with the author of Guns, Girls, and Greed. I was a Blackwater mercenary in Iraq, and his name is Morgan Lerette. Welcome, Morgan, to Veronica Live.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, John and I were talking offline. Well, and I just want to say this too. I messaged you, it's almost showtime, and you texted me back that you shaved your legs for this. So I was already dying, but the book is so good. It is so good. And then of course your Instagram, I was totally sucked into your Blackwater Dude 1 Instagram because you have all these pictures. But okay, before we start talking about the book, tell us about you, because the book is so good.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of the poster child for joining the Army in the late 90s, or the military in the late 90s, right? Like small town USA, poor kid. The recruiters descended on us like flies on turds. So I joined the Air National Guard in 1999. And I was like, oh, this is great. And I started going to college because they give you all that college money. And then September 11th happened, and it absolutely just, changed my life plan that I didn't have. So we were activated for 2 years. I went to Oman, and then Pakistan, Jordan, Kuwait, and then Iraq during the ground offensive in 2003. And then when I got done with that, it's like, well, what do you do with your life? So I had a couple buddies join Blackwater, and I just got a random phone call. That's how it went back then. It was all word of mouth. Got a random phone call, and the guy's like, hey, you want to join Blackwater? And I was like, no, I saw what happened in Fallujah in March 2004. And he's like, how about for $550 a day? And I said, yeah, I'll be there. Send me a plane ticket.
Well, and that's one of the things we'll talk about is money. So tell people that don't know what Blackwater is, what you all were tasked to do over there.
Yeah, so when Iraq moved from like a combat mission to a diplomatic mission, once they had their own little interim government, in all of its non-planning glory, the United States said, this is a diplomatic mission. Let's send all of our diplomats over there to help them build their country. And then they looked around and they saw that they didn't have anybody to protect those guys. So that's where Blackwater came in. And it didn't have to be Blackwater. It could have been DynCorp. It could have been Triple Canopy. Blackwater just was able to fill a contract because it had a lot of, people like me in the community that would go and work for them. So we would essentially take a diplomat or, one of those agency guys, and we would move them from point A to point B somewhere in Iraq. But you have to kind of put it in context. Like, there's no GPS. There's no, creature comforts that we have now. So we just kind of had to figure out the mission as we went. And as long as we got the guy, to the polling station and then back without getting killed, we high-fived, and then we grabbed a bunch of beers and drank at the pool.
Which I wanted to ask you, have you ever written anything before? Because the descriptions, just like when you got there and you ended up with diarrhea, and I was reliving when I went to Panama after Operation Just Cause, and I was trapped in a house for 2 days because I couldn't get to a store to get the medicine because, you're a dumb lieutenant. You don't think you should pack these things. And just all of your descriptions from your athlete's foot to the sweat, I was so there with you on these missions. So talk about that.
Well,
have you written before? I mean, you're an excellent writer. I felt the heat going down my back.
Yeah, you get pulled right into the story.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
So when I first started writing, I had just had kids, and I realized there's no guide out there for having children. So all these crazy things were happening that I had no idea what to expect. Right? There's all those books that are meant for new moms that are my wife's read this, and I was God, this is terrible. So I started writing a blog about having kids. There's a reason why you put pajamas on them, because they'll tear their diaper off and then they will man pee right through the crib. All these crazy things. So that's where I started writing. And then I've had so many people tell me, these are the craziest stories I've ever heard. Please, God, put them down on paper. So that's how it started. I just did story by story and then finally started kind of putting it into a book format.
Well, it's excellent. So when you become a Blackwater person, because you've been in the Army, you've been issued a weapon. Now you're able to protect these diplomats. Is there how does your moral compass feel when you take people out? I guess because I've always flown a desk. It's really boring, taking care of fighter pilots, and I'm married to a fighter pilot. So how does that feel? I mean, because it's a mission, you're very mission oriented. You know what you're there to do. You're protecting a U.S. diplomat, so it's clear cut.
It's not clear cut, and that's part of the problem. The one thing that always helped is that at the end of the day, we had this big money vault, and we would just like Scrooge McDuck swim through our money.
Right.
So that helps with the moral compass. But no, it's difficult because you're making these split-second decisions without the UCMJ, without laws that are necessarily governing you. So you have to make a decision based on the morality of it and how intense it is on the ground, right? So car bombs were all the rage. If you guys spent any time in Baghdad, every car is painted white with orange doors. And then they're there's a car bomb that's painted white and it's got orange doors. So if those cars are screaming up on you, what do? You have to engage that car, or you run the risk of it's going to blow up you, it's going to blow up the convoy, it's going to blow up the individual that you're protecting. So it's really just that split second where you have to decide, am I going to pop my weapon off of safe and I'm going to engage, or am I going to just hope that this guy slows down? And as long as we could hit the pillow, at least myself, as long as I could hit the pillow at night and be able to sleep with what I had done, I was able to say, okay, I'm still doing sort of good. Well, those guys kind of hate me, but I'm doing good on this part.
Right.
So did y'all have any kind of the military has rules of engagement? Did y'all have anything? Obviously, you didn't have a JAG officer in the middle of those, but is there anything that you operated under as far as that type of thing, or did you say just your conscience?
Yeah. It's like Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder. That was about it. No, there was no set rules of engagement. And this is one of my, looking back, frustrations with private military contractors, because it sets up the contractor for a lot of liability if something goes wrong. They have somebody to say, oh, it was that person, right? The State Department wasn't going to take responsibility for hiring us. They could fire us on demand. But at the end of the day, it's really convenient for politicians and these department heads to say, oh, they did something wrong, except we have no real laws that are governing us, right? How are you going to have an investigation? If something bad happens, how are you going to have an investigation and the due process due to a U.S. citizen without being able to go and collect evidence in an active war zone? And it's a very difficult position to be in. If now in my 40s, I look at it and go, oh, God, that was insane. I could have been, spending life in jail if something bad happened. Mm-hmm. But in my 20s, I thought, oh, they got my back. They do not have your back.
Yeah. Well, so you didn't get the diplomatic protection or that not protection, the diplomatic immunity that the government people operate under. Is that correct?
So they told us that we did, and I'll tell you where they messed up is they actually gave us diplomatic passports issued under the U.S. State Department. But because we're dumb Blackwater guys, people started abusing it and like going to other countries and being like, I'm a U.S. diplomat. I get to skip the line going through the airport. So they took those away pretty quick after that. But we were essentially told you have diplomatic immunity. If something happens, we're going to get you out of country as fast as possible. You're going to be fine. And then in 2007, it turns out that that's not correct because the Raven 2-3 guys were prosecuted ad nauseum by the Obama and the Biden administration, even though they did everything that they thought was correct in that one situation. So I'm glad that nothing like that happened to me, but it's a very precarious position to be in as a private contractor.
I always thought that was odd because when I go over the seas on deployment, they'd always remind you, you're subject to U.S. law, even though you're in a foreign country. You can still be prosecuted under U.S. law in the U.S. for whatever you do here. And I always thought that was kind of an odd situation to be in.
So,
and that's,
go ahead.
Well, I could pontificate about that forever, but yes, we knew we were under U.S. law, but how do you ensure due process in an active combat zone? Like, who's the person that's doing chain of custody? Who's the person that's cordoning off, the area and collecting evidence? You can't do that when people are dying around you.
Right. Well, I love in the book how you have these little conversations with people, and they're just so like the Asian guy. I loved when you chatted with him. One of the moving ones is the medic. You're like he says headed home soon, and you're like, yeah, it's time, and he's like, well, I have no reason to go home, and you say, well, you're married, and then he talks about how his wife just filed for divorce. And he's there because she's going to take half the retirement, so he needs the money. So, I mean, that was a serious one, but you have kind of like, since I've lived in fighter pilot culture, everybody has a call sign. So what was your call sign? Talk about that too, and these little stories that you have throughout the book of these conversations.
Okay, so call signs or handles are very difficult because usually you don't want them. Somebody gives them to you and then they stick, right? So I learned pretty quick that you don't want to answer to any of those ones that you don't like. So my call sign was always just Morgan. And people would say, oh, what if they hear about you on the radio? I'm like, look, if they can find a Morgan on these encrypted radios that we have with these billions of dollars that we spend on encryption, then they are more than welcome to send me a letter to my house. But they tried to call me Murdoch, the guy from the A-Team, the squirrely guy. They tried that for a while. So I got mail. What they used to do is before we had a mailroom is they would take all of our mail and they would throw it on this big table in our tent. And I walked in and people are like, I don't know if we should go out today. It's kind of chancy. And I was like, well, that's weird. And then somebody else is like, oh, well, it looks like there's a chancey of rain. And I was like, God, what is going on here? My middle name's Chancey. And they had seen my mail, and it said Morgan Lerette. So I still have the Blackwater guys that reach out to me and say, hey, Chancey. And I'm like, oh, my God. Why did my parents give me that middle name? But the conversations, this is what I think a lot of people don't realize about combat, is that it's not Jason Bourne where every 15 minutes, hand-to-hand combat. 99% is boredom. And you're sitting there and you're trying to fill that time. And so you come up with just the craziest conversation. So my buddy Dave, the Asian guy, I didn't even know that you weren't supposed to say Oriental. So I was like, well, you're Oriental. And he's like, what am I, a soup? What am I,
yeah, that was a really funny one.
Yeah,
that was
a
cute
like, well,
one.
What do you want to be called? And he's like, Dave, but I'm Korean. So you have these conversations, and they're almost always like, if you had to do one thing to save the world, what would you do? And it's like, but why is the world ending? And then you can go on with this for like 8 to 10 hours, and it's some of the most lewd and hilarious. Like, if you were ever in the military, you could read this book and be like, oh, yeah, that's me, actually. I don't know
yes.
how you met me.
Well, I wanted to meet Funk Fake, because how many Funk Fakes have I met? And I was like, oh, that's hysterical. So that was like my favorite, kind of loser person.
Oh, yeah, the funk faker that goes around and tells everybody how awesome they are. It's like it's like prison rules. Like, the first person you meet that wants to come talk to you wants to talk to you because they got no friends. And there's a reason for it. And that's the person that comes up and tells you how awesome they were. And you have to take that as a grain of salt, because most people are not going to tell you what they did or how they did it back in the day until you actually get to know them. So, yeah, we got lots of funk fakers, because the funk is the cool, but he's faking it, so he's a funk faker.
Now,
I saw your comment there about officers and weapons. I thought that was kind of funny. There's a photo that was recently circulating that the Navy pulled down. It showed a ship's captain on the McCain firing, I don't know if it's an M4 or whatever, something similar. But anyway, he had the scope on backwards, and the grip on the forestock was all the way back, and he was completely out of position, for firing the weapon. He was actually firing because you could see the shell coming out, and everybody was commenting on it about what an idiot this guy was, and I saw that in your book there. You don't seem to have a whole lot of respect for military officers and weapon handlers.
And I was one, and that didn't help. The military. Well, what happens is you take all these guys that aren't used to carrying weapons, and this is across the branches. So, I can poke fun at the Navy or the Air Force, but most of these guys in the headquarters are not used to carrying specifically pistols.
No, because we shoot them once a year. That's all they let us play with them. If you're not a military police, Morgan.
No, I know. And that's the crazy part, is they're like, hey, just, put these live rounds in and walk around. But every time you walk into a building, you have to clear it. And then they don't drop the magazine. They clear it. They look down the barrel. They're doing almost everything right. And then at the end of it, you have to pull the trigger, and they put the slide forward, they pull the trigger, and they shoot the barrel. I mean, I think we probably wounded more clearing barrels over there than we did terrorists.
Oh, that's so funny. So I wanted to ask you, because I love your description of you guys are hanging out in Saddam's mansion with the pool, and the ambassador was in his master bedroom, and so you're walking around this palatial thing in hell. Talk about that.
Okay, so I grew up in the metropolis of Cottonwood, Arizona, and we don't have mansions down there. So when I got to Baghdad, even before I went to Baghdad, if I got to a Holiday Inn, I was living good, right? If they had pancakes, that's good living. So getting into Baghdad and actually seeing what a real mansion is, like a Rockefeller-type mansion, walk in and it's like marble or granite, floor to ceiling, and looking up at the ceilings, it's like a hand-carved wooden, with little designs in it. It's got chandeliers coming down like freaking Beauty and the Beast, right? Like it is absolutely gorgeous. And walking to the back of the palace is like this pool that's got to look like Mar-a-Lago. This is the only thing I can think Mar-a-Lago looks like. It's got like a little fountain, and it's spitting out water, and it's got 2 diving boards, and around it's all these little palm trees. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous until the Blackwater guys got there and started drinking heavily on a nightly basis. And then we did our best to ruin it. There's always one person that's going to ruin it. It may as well be a Blackwater guy.
So, I wanted to ask you too about when you went, out and you were trying to buy stuff, and they're pushing, because Muslims don't drink, but the alcohol is very prevalent for purchase, and how they had porn. I mean, and the kids are trying to get you to buy porn. So do you roll your eyes, or you kind of knew that was going to be there, having been in the Army? And isn't it silly that they live this lifestyle, yet it was so available to you?
Well, I realized that, kind of like you have Christians and Mormons, and then you have like your Jack Mormons, and you have the Christians that'll say they're Christians, and then, they're out there dating 8 different women. And it's the same thing with the Muslim religion, right? I thought it was going to be like The Handmaid's Tale, and everybody walks around with their burqas on, but they're just normal humans, and they have normal human vices. I mean, they smoke like a frickin' freight train. But they had this little bazaar, which is a little outdoor market, and they had gone in and just looted Baghdad. So I'm walking around this market, and at the very back of it, there's these like fine Chinese plates with Hitler's face on it. This is one of my biggest regrets. My grandma collects plates, and I grew up with my grandparents. And I looked at that plate, and they wanted $50, but I didn't have cash, so I was going to come back and get that plate so I could hand it to my grandma and be like, "Grandma, this plate reminds me of you. It's Hitler." And my grandma's the sweetest. My grandma's the sweetest person on the planet. But and then as we're walking out of the bazaar, the little kids come up and they got DVDs. Well, these are like the movies that are still in theaters in the U.S., where somebody goes in with a camera and they pirate it, and then they put it on DVDs for sale for us guys. And if you didn't want those, then they would try to sell you the porn DVDs. And I was like, oh my God, first off, how does this kid know English as well as he does? And second off, he knows like the filthy English, like dropping F-bombs, calling me every homosexual epithet that he possibly can. Like it is absolutely shocking. But when I wanted to go back and get the plate, they had blown up the bazaar and actually killed, I think, 5 contractors a couple days prior. Book. Yeah, so it kind of brought it all into like, holy crap, this is still real, right? Like people are still actively trying to blow us up, even within the confines of the very safe green zone, as they would say.
Well,
so do you think a lot of it is the adrenaline rush? You said a lot of it was boredom, capped by a few minutes of real excitement. But is that adrenaline rush addictive? I mean, why do people, not necessarily you, but perhaps some of the other people, is there something that keeps drawing them into that lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, I say war is intoxicating, but it's toxic. It's like being an alcoholic, right? It's bad for you, but you're just going to keep doing it because you really enjoy the effects of it. So going overseas, it's the adrenaline, but there's a lot of guys that did it for 10, 15 years that never even left the base. They would just go play poker, and they would go hang out at the fires at night. So it's also the brotherhood, where you're sitting there with people that would literally give their life for you, and you would give your life for them. And this is a Blackwater, this is military, this is everywhere, where you have that esprit de corps, and you just want to keep going back to it, because especially with contractors, you come home and it's just you and your thoughts, and you don't have little kids trying to sell you porn. Like you miss it somehow, if that makes any sense. So you're going to jump on your next contract. I can't tell you how many people, you mentioned the guy that like pretty much ended his marriage to keep contracting.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that would say, I'm going to go home for a month or 2 months. And then 3 weeks later, they would just be back. I'd say, what happened? It's, I was bored. So you just keep coming back, and it's almost like, and I didn't love the movie, but the Hurt Locker, it's that guy that just wants to keep coming back. That was the mentality with us Blackwater guys.
So one of I mean, you just nail everything in this book. The pageant queens overseas, because I was a pageant queen, Morgan, living in Panama and Germany for 6 years. And some men only want to date American women, so I could date anybody I wanted. But it was so funny because the girls that weren't pretty, sorry to say this, they were pageant queens only when they were overseas. So I was dying. I literally was dying because I've met these pageant queens. So you've just nailed everything, Morgan.
The overseas beauty queens. For those that don't know, when you go overseas, you gain like 3 to 4 points of pretty as a female. It doesn't matter.
It is so true.
It is so true. So I remember as an Army officer, I would go and like these guys, they're very fit, they're very handsome. We have this day where the families come out, mandatory fun day, and you look over and this guy's like married to a girl that looks like a toad. You're like, oh my God. Like David Petraeus' wife is the like perfect example. She looks like a toad, and I'm not even trying to be mean. But when you're overseas, there's no like American women. You're not going to go and try to like date somebody out in the red zone because you don't want to be the guy lured in and then you had your head chopped off on CNN. So there's a lot of single fit men and not very many women, and it's like a basketball game. It's like 5 guys fighting 5 other guys over 1 hole, right? It's just absolutely insane.
Well, I just thought that was really funny. So I wanted to know.
I was going to say, I was telling Veronica in the Navy, when I used to fly in the Navy, we had a story called "Go Ugly Early."
John's going to write the sequel to your book.
Yeah, that was always entertaining.
Prequel. So I wanted to ask you, because we're running out of time, and the book is just it's guns, girls, and greed. It's if you want to feel what it's like to be overseas, everything you depict, I felt it. But how did this change you as a human and now as a father? Because would you do it again? And that accountability word is so huge. Did it change you reflecting back?
Yeah, well, and this is kind of the problem with PMCs is that they are cheaper to send overseas than soldiers, right? You're not paying BAH for their family, healthcare, all this other stuff. But when they come home, it's just them. There's no VA. The suicide rate, the PTSD rate for contractors is extremely high because they spend years and years in a combat zone instead of doing a 6 to 12-month pump. Wow. So I would do it again at 23 as a single guy. I would definitely not do it again if I had like a family or in my current situation, I absolutely wouldn't. And then you look at like the moral ambiguity and is the government going to have your back? Short answer is no, they're not going to. So I wouldn't do it. But it does change you. Like it turned me into this very hyper competitive person, just being around these special operations guys. So I wanted to come home and do everything like the best. I wanted to be the best. And that has helped me through my career. But at the same time, there's still those scars of being over there and some of the hairy things that we did that you can read about, where I think, was it really worth it? So, you only live once, so you may as well just go with the life you got, right?
And what do you want to, as we wrap here, what do you want people to know? Because the book's on Amazon, Guns, Girls, and Greed. What do you want people to know about the book, Morgan?
Yeah, if you want a ground perspective of the war, whether you are a soldier, a soldier, this is the book. This is not, somebody up there, a journalist or a CEO talking about what happened. It's really the real people that did the real job. So that's kind of how I differentiate myself with this book, and it's hilarious. I don't even know how to say it's war comedy.
No, it's so good.
But it is pretty dang funny.
It is so good. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. We've been talking with Morgan Lerette, Guns, Girls, and Greed. I was a Blackwater mercenary in Iraq, and I want everybody to go out and get this on Amazon. And I got to have you back because we've got to talk. I want to talk politics next time with you, Morgan, not just about your amazing book.
Yeah, you've got my number, so, just call anytime. But if it's after 8:30, I'm in bed. I'm old now.
All right. Well, God bless you, and we'll be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome back to Veronica Live, and we are here with Chuck Perdue, our favorite tax collector. He oversees the Bay County office, and it is such a pleasure to go into that tax collection office to do anything with your license. So welcome back, Chuck.
I don't know about pleasure.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, I texted him because my plate was 10 years old and I couldn't renew it online because I have to drive around with a personal plate because I'm like a teenager. I have to have my personalized plate with my call sign on it. And so I went in there and literally Ashley waited on me, and it was like sheer heaven. I was in and out in 15 minutes. First of all, it was right after lunch, and I was like, where is everybody? I felt lonely at the DMV, and then it was such a wonderful experience, Chuck, because this doesn't happen. I've been to DMVs all across the country, and it's normally, I equate DMV to like heaven because everybody's there, and some of the people are scary.
Right.
But
look, every week people come into our office, and they'll bring a book, and I'm like, what are you reading? That's really great, but you're not going to have time to sit down and read the book in this office.
No.
Veronica, honestly, I'll just tell you, our office vision is changing the way government does business.
I've
really just taken some simple business processes and implemented them. And we continue to analyze the data to figure out how do we best and most efficiently serve the customer. And at the end of the day, I get a lot of kudos and things. But the truth is, the one thing I did right is I hired really, really good people. And together we cast a vision for our organization. And then we encourage and we challenge our team to pursue that vision every single day. And so it's been a real blessing and an honor to serve Bay County in this capacity. And the truth is, this has caught a lot of attention from around the state. Some of the things that we're doing here, and so this is spread across other counties. So much so that I was elected this past year to serve as president of the Florida Tax Collectors Association.
Oh, excellent!
So now I really have a statewide platform and a voice. And so now I've really placed a lot of focus on legislative efforts. So every year I come out with a legislative package. I have a DMV package and a tax collection package, for better words. But in those packages, there's 20 to 30 things that it's good government efficiencies and it's reduced costs for consumers. And, and I have a heart for our veterans. So I always, every chance I get, I do things to reduce fees for our veterans and to help them with their transactions and make it a little easier for them. Along with our current serving military members, we've got people from Bay County serving in all branches of the military all over the world, and they've got to be able to find good common sense solutions to get their vehicles titled, their tags renewed, their driver's license renewed, without packing up and taking leave to come back to Bay County to do it. So, you talk about you were lonely in the DMV because no one was there. You haven't seen that before. Well, a lot of that is just pushing more and more services online. So we've really taken a hard look at our Google Analytics, and we look at the pages and the hits that we get every month. Our website gets about 2 million hits a month, and we've really analyzed what those people are looking for. And we're currently redoing our website. We should roll it out, the new one out in the next several months, to really just make it more convenient and more efficient. Because the truth is, if you want less people in the office, then you got to drive more business online. And we've done that in my 8 years. I think my first year in 2017, we did about $50,000 or $60,000 in online revenues. Last year we did 298 million in online revenue.
Oh my
so
gosh.
That's why the office is
That's
empty.
amazing. You know, Chuck, because I remember, because I've lived here twice. So I've been here now 10 years, and then we were stationed here before at Tyndall, and it was just so archaic. And I just feel like it's so modern because you can make an appointment to go online, and then you have that kiosk at the Publix here on 23rd Street. So tell people what they can do with that kiosk.
Yeah, so that kiosk, I tell you, I've mailed out, and done as much advertising and marketing as I can for the kiosk. And every tag renewal, we send out a little blurb about the kiosk. But anytime Publix is open on 23rd Street, you can walk in there, and in 2 minutes, you can get your tag renewed. It prints it out right on the spot, gives you your sticker so you can put it on your car. And, so we're looking at ways now to expand that kiosk program. I want to get it in more Publix grocery stores in the area. But I also want to provide more services, right? So maybe toll clearances, tax payments, some of the more simplified products that we have. It'd be good to have those available, in non-government offices so people can get them during the normal course of their life.
Well, I didn't know that you were the president for all of Florida, so I'm super excited because, you can clean up Florida and then you can clean up the rest of the country. Chuck, I've got a big vision for you now. And then just looking at your social media, when it came to property tax, I didn't realize that, because people today, John and I talk about it, our economy's rough and they're having a hard time paying their bills. But you all, is that a new thing to be able to do installments of your property tax? Because we always just pay it. But I was thinking about, how the working people today, it's hard to pay these bills sometimes. Is that a new thing, or has that always been around?
No, it's something that the legislature enacted several years ago. It just hasn't been widely advertised or used. But when I took over in Bay County, we had, I don't even remember the number of delinquent accounts, but it was an overwhelming number. So I worked really hard to get that, people brought into compliance. And I honestly, I don't believe it's the government's role to, tax and fine people and charge interest and late fees and all these things. So there's a lot of things statutorily that I just took privileges with to bring people in compliance. I would negotiate the outstanding interest that they owed and additional fines, because at the end of the day, what I wanted people to do was just get current on their taxes. Now let's help them find a way to stay current, right? A big piece of that is making sure that the local county and the local municipalities don't increase the tax rate. It's also, working with the property appraisers to make sure that the local values are managed in a way not to cause people an undue tax burden. So it's a balancing act. I came from corporate America, so I never really cared for government or taxes or politics. So I really try to err on the side of the taxpayer, because I am one, and I believe as much money as we pay in taxes, that government should serve us well. But also, I don't think government should get a windfall, right? I believe we got to be good steward of the taxpayers' dollars. So the installment payments is part of that, and it's based on the prior year's taxes. And then when the property appraiser sets the values and the different taxing authorities, they determine the millage rate. Then we true it up at the end. And so there are about 150,000 parcels in Bay County. Typically, I see about 17,000 parcels go delinquent and unpaid on March 31. And then on June 1, when we do the tax certificate sale, we have about 5,000 to 6,000 certificates that we sell. And we work really hard to get as many of those people in compliance as possible before they encounter any future problems.
So Chuck, I'm just curious, what drives you? I don't know what it is about Bay County, but, we have Mark Anderson, supervisor of elections, completely overhauled that office, came up with innovative pieces like the ISO 9000 quality system, for elections, believe it or not, a quality control system for elections. He also was elected, to be the president of the Florida supervisors. You came in, you completely transformed that office. Completely changed it. And you seem to be following on a similar path. Is there something, do y'all get together and talk to each other, or are we just that lucky that we've got people that are inspired to make these kind of changes and provide this kind of leadership?
Mark Anderson has certainly done a great job. And, I don't know if you know, but this is his last term. He's retiring.
I'm
his
sad.
Chief deputy, Nina's his chief deputy there is going to do an outstanding job. So we're excited to have her. But, for me, to answer your question, so I'm an accountant. I've got a master's in tax law, and I was a corporate tax consultant for 20 years. And I had the privilege of representing maybe 65, 70% of all Fortune 500 companies. And so I got to travel around the country and meet with top-level executives in some of the best companies in the world. And I just really gained an appreciation for their leadership. I had to learn, because of my job, I really learned their systems and their processes. And when my first son, my oldest son, came home one day and said, "Dad, can you take me out of school tomorrow and take me to get my driver's permit?" I was like, "Yeah, that's great. I'd love to." That's just an exciting time in a family's life when they're about to have a teenage driver. So we literally go to the office and pull a ticket and sit there. It's about 4 hours, and I'm looking at the processes.
Oh, it was
I'm looking
horrific
at the customer
back in
service.
the day.
It was awful, and so it was a miserable experience. The employees were miserable. The customers were miserable. Half the people going in there didn't have what they needed, so they got sent back, home to go get back in line again. And I came home and I told my wife, I was like, literally, as much money as we pay in tax, government should serve us better. And she said, well, maybe you should run for tax collector. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't like government. I don't like taxes. It's probably not a good fit. Fast forward 3 years later, my youngest son needed to go down there to get his driver's license. And so we went. We had the same experience. We pulled a ticket. We waited. We heard, everyone was disgruntled. And I came home and I said the same thing. I was like, boy, as much as we pay in tax, government should serve us better. My wife said, "You've said this twice now, and we have a rule. You don't complain about it unless you're willing to go do something about it." And so I just started praying about it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go fix this office. I know it can run better. Do I know anything about it? Absolutely not. But I'm willing to commit my next phase of my life to learning everything about it, so that I can find a better solution for Bay County. And that's what drove me.
Well, it's literally pristine. It flows amazing. So Chuck, you've cleaned it up. I need you to run for something else. I've decided. So let's start a rumor here. CFO Petronas is going to be termed out. So I'd happily take you there, So.
Sure. Look, you and a lot of other people would like for me to run for something else.
Yes.
But the truth is, CFO Petronas has done an outstanding job.
Oh,
he
he's
has worked
wonderful.
that office statewide, unlike
he
any
can be the gov.
CFO.
He can be the governor.
He's been fantastic. Unfortunately, go ahead.
Well, we talk about him, he said on my show that he's been cleared by Katie to run for governor. So I'm excited about that. Right. That'll be the next step. And, we need you. I'm happy to start the CFO, or unless you want to be the lieutenant governor, you just tell me. We'll run with it.
Sure. Yeah. It'd be really hard. You know how the legislature and the cabinet and the executive branch works. It would be really hard to get two guys from the Panhandle to have that much power in the executive branch, right? It's a really big state. It's a really big office. Someone to really run and be effective and win a position like that has to be really well known in the Central Florida I-4 corridor, the Hillsborough area, the Miami area. And although, I have a lot of great contacts there, I think that's a pretty big reach for the tax collector from Bay County. So
I'll drive, Chuck.
I don't know, Chuck. There's rumors that you're very influential and people like the governor listen to you. So,
well, I've been blessed to build good relationships. I recognized early on a couple of things. Number one, if I'm going to turn around this Bay County tax collector's office, I've got to do two things. One, I've got to build really good relationships with other elected officials, with the executive branch, the legislature, local elected officials, with vendors who serve government and the tax collector industry. And then number two, I've got to paint a vision for the office that people buy into and want to be a part of, because you can't turn around something that big very quickly unless you have a lot of people, with oars in the water rowing in the same direction. So I have been blessed to build some good relationships. And again, it's just been an honor and a blessing.
So tell everyone how big your staff is. And then I saw, on the website and your social media that you need a finance assistant and I guess another customer service rep. So how big is your staff, Chuck?
So we have 4 offices that we have 81 positions. I think we have about 74 of them filled right now.
So you do have
what I found is as you cross about 50 employees, someone's always leaving for something. They're married to military and they're moving, getting deployed somewhere, or they're moving out of state, or they're moving somewhere to take care of elderly parents. So we're just continually hiring. I've not once had a full staff in the 8 years I've been doing this. We do have customer service representatives positions available, along as a finance position. So I'm losing a person in my finance department to the VA. And so I'm really excited for them to have an opportunity. And kind of the culture we've created in our office is we really, our number one value is hire, retain, and celebrate talent. So we really pump a lot of energy into hiring the right people, into encouraging them, giving them a good training opportunity, because what we believe is if we're good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars and we're good stewards of people's time, then we're investing in a generation of leaders. I mean, I view my job, my number one job is to grow more leaders. And so I really, when someone tells me they're leaving or they want to leave, I really celebrate and make a big deal out of that, because I know that I've played a small role in their journey as a leader. So we're always hiring, and so I would welcome people to come and just have a conversation about the office. Doesn't sound real attractive to work for the tax collector's office, but we're doing some really great things, having a large impact on all of Florida with the legislative stuff we're doing. So,
that's exciting.
Log in and
love
apply.
That. And
the other thing, Chuck, is the people at your office are always so pleasant. I mean, I was in there last week to get some tags renewed. I didn't have the paperwork with me, and it was like, no problem. I've got the insurance card with the VIN, and they took care of it. But everybody, from the minute you walk in that door, the lady that sits there, the information desk, right on the spot. Mm-hmm. I'll take care of you. I've got you. And then, is that something you look for when you're hiring the people, or is it just something that comes from the nature of everybody interacting in your office?
Well, so it's twofold, right? So first, what we believe are our values. I mentioned hire, retain, and celebrate talent is at the top of the list. But the next 3 values are communicate with clarity and collaboration, serve with a solutions-based mindset, and create a positive customer experience. That's our values. It's listed under what we believe on our website. And I preach that. I am the chief encouragement officer. Like, I literally put on classes, and we do training around customer service. And that's everything from, I was fortunate enough to spend a few hours with Bob Schultz, who founded Best Buy. And he's got a 5-10 rule. His rule was, if you're within 10 feet of a customer, you smile. If you're within 5 feet, you smile and you ask them how you can be helpful. And so we practice some of these things. We also go through the Chick-fil-A model on customer service. And, we do a good bit of technical training, but I'd say a good 30 to 40% of our training now is around creating a positive customer experience with a solutions-based mindset. Like, I don't want to send you away to go get something to come back. We are going to exhaust every option we have. And there's a lot of options. Just historically, the alternative procedures have not been taught. That's now kind of what we're teaching mostly, because we want to make sure you have a good experience. We want you in and out in a timely manner. And more importantly, we want you to feel valued and like you can be proud of the experience you just had with a government office when you leave.
So is there a motto that you live by, Chuck? Because you've talked about these leadership initiatives, and is that always been instilled with you? And, do you have a motto?
Serve others. What does that mean? Are we serving our community with these processes and these products? Absolutely. But serve the guy sitting next to you, right? Like, if you're working side by side with me and I need to go get a drink, I might say, Veronica, can I get you a Coke while I'm gone? Or, can I do anything for you? But also hold each other accountable. Like, hey, I noticed you're a little harsh with that customer. Are you okay? Is something going on? Do you need to take a break? I mean, all of my staff are, encouraged to really build those communications and have hard conversations with each other, because that's a critical part of being on the same team and rowing the boat in the same direction, is that accountability piece, but also the encouragement and the service piece.
Well, that's great. So what are we missing? It's who knew that the DMV, because I was joking with John, because in the Bible, the tax collector's not always our friend, but you make it so pleasurable, and your staff was just so, every time I've been in there, it's been, when I had knee surgery, I had to get my handicap pass two times, and everybody was so willing to let me be handicapped for a little while to recover. It was wonderful.
So Chuck, do you think this model can be replicated at other tax collectors around the different counties in Florida?
Absolutely. In fact, I can tell you, out of 67 counties, you've got about 25 that are doing this thing similar to the way that I'm doing them now. You've got another 20 that are in some phase of moving in this direction. There's 2 or 3 that's way out in front of me. And, so there's people that I really admire in this industry that are really innovative and starting to engage things like AI and Chat GPT and those types of tools and facial recognition and just different things that can really speed up the process while keeping the community safe, which is, the public safety and security piece we haven't talked about yet, but it's becoming more of a critical element in our offices with the illegal immigration. But then you've got about 15 to 20 counties that are just fiscally constrained. And so one of my initiatives in our association is, how do we really help our fiscally constrained counties, our rural counties, to get some of the innovations and tools that we have so that they can offer the same level of service to their citizens? So that's created a roundtable of tax collectors, vendors, state partners, to really talk about how can we help the small counties to do some of these things, because just because they're rural and they're small and they don't have the money should not mean that they should be stuck in the 60s or 70s as far as their technology is concerned.
So do y'all have like a mentorship kind of program where you could help, like you mentor one county and one of the other advanced guys, do that kind of stuff for another county?
Absolutely. So we'll have that a week-long class in January. This year in Florida, out of 67 tax collectors, we're going to have 17 new tax collectors, because there's 15 that are retiring, and Miami-Dade and Broward counties are going to elect their first tax collector since the 1950s due to Amendment 10.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
And I've been working with their staff on, just on the transition from DMV to tax collector in those counties. And it's a massive undertaking. But to answer your question, yes. So, for example, there's going to be a new tax collector in Gulf County and Franklin County. I will probably mentor them. I will send staff to their offices to help guide them and get them up to speed on just basically the operations of the office, but also just to build the relationship to let them know if things go terribly wrong, we're here and we're going to support you and we're going to help you. So absolutely, the mentorship program is going to be critical with so many tax collectors that are going to be new this election cycle, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's all no one really knows what they're jumping into.
So who actually pays for your equipment and the kiosk? Do you have to pay for that out of your budget, like the money that's coming in, or does Florida pay for that, the state? How does that work to get modernized?
So basically, there's 2 types of tax collector offices in Florida. There's a fee-based and a budget-based. A budget-based are those fiscally constrained that get their budgets through the Board of County Commission. The fee-based offices are like Bay County, meaning we produce enough fees and commissions off the services that we provide that statutory fees and commissions, that we have enough money to run our offices. So we just have to really be careful in the planning of that outlay of capital. And for me personally, I've got to know what the return on the investment is. Like, if you're telling me that I'm going to invest $250,000 in technology, well, I need to be able to dial that down and understand, okay, well, it's going to shave 12 minutes off our wait time, or it's going to reduce fees to the customer by, $3 per person. I mean, I've got to be able to equate it to like a real world business number to know that it's worth doing. So there's a combination of things. So most of that is funded out of my budget as far as my innovation improvement. The Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, they do a refresh on all of our equipment, our computers, our monitors, our scanners, our printers, our driver's license cameras. They do that refresh about every 3 years. They also cover a lot of the cost of the maintenance and upkeep of that equipment. So it's a collaborative effort between the fees and commissions I earn, the vendors that we engage, and the state partners that we serve. Got
it. Well, did we miss anything? I'm just like, I feel like we've gone around and around. I do want to point to people on your social media, on your Facebook. It was a really nice video you were talking about when your kids got their license, on what you need to bring and stuff. I thought that was great. Very innovative to watch that video. And then I wanted to go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when we roll out our new website, we're going to have more of those short video clips on how to interact with the office and, and to be prepared when you come. So I'm excited about our new website.
Well, and I wanted to thank you because, I get hired occasionally to be a consultant, and I put on that event with the billionaire who spent $50 million in Bay County, and you graciously came to my event as a VIP, and the billionaire was just so impressed with everyone in Bay County, and so I was hoping that he comes and spends more money here in Bay County because they said he was still interested, Chuck. So I was doing my part to make sure you have money in your coffers.
You do a great job hosting these events, and it's always a pleasure to come. And when your billionaire friend was here, I thanked him for his future business, and so it's a win-win.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, and we direct everybody to the Bay County Tax Collector. It's baytaxcollector.com, and if you need a license, or just go on in there. Everyone's great. Do you have any final comments, Chuck?
I don't think so. I just really appreciate your time. Let your listeners know that, come put in an application, come talk to me. I think you'd find it a great place to work.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, we've been talking with Chuck Perdue from the Bay Tax Collector Office, and it's been a pleasure having you on. We'll be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome to Veronica Live, and we've got our favorite millennial minister of truth, Drew Allen from The Drew Allen Show, and he's on Patriot TV now, The Drew Allen Show. And I was saying, you remember the slogan, Drew, drill, baby, drill? Well, I'm like, was saying Drew Baby Drew is going to join us. So welcome back.
Hey, it's good to be here as always. I love it.
Yeah, well, we've got to talk about, because you're always doing shows, and I've got to have you on, once a month to talk about all the craziness. And this week you did a show about Kristi Noem and the dog, and that we kind of need to just press on. And oh my gosh, have you seen her? She's been groveling. And I want to say two things. Number one, she didn't read her damn book. Okay. Number two, her Kim Jong-il meeting. Oh, I've met with world leaders for 30 years, but I'm not going to tell you who I've met with. I mean, she looks stupid now. And so anyway, she just, I've been commenting all over X that the John Deere tractor sailed away, Drew. So I just wanted you to talk about Kristi.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm not defending Kristi. I don't care anything about Kristi Noem, to be honest, personally. My point is she shouldn't be the VP. She's got a lot of skeletons in her closet. It's a bad idea. She's not a good VP candidate. Although, as far as Republicans go and governors go, she's definitely not the worst that we have. Right. But my point is, we're sitting here on our precious time. Like, and I did an episode about it, so like I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. You know, my point of covering it was to say Joe Biden is a sociopath, a pathological liar. Democrats lie all the time. The border's being invaded, and so we're going to spend like a week on Fox News and every other news network talking about how Kristi Noem said something in her book that wasn't true.
I know, waste
like
our
Joe
time.
Biden does that every single day.
Yeah.
We don't spend this much time on Joe Biden every time he lies, so my point's just like, where's the perspective on this? Like, why are we even spending all our time on Noem? I mean, I get it. People don't want her to be VP. There's different camps out there. But, like, I think it was just overdone in the media. But she did. I mean, she kept putting herself out there and doing interviews. And obviously they finally pulled the plug on those and stopped doing them. But I just felt like, you know, we spent all this time on Kristi Noem, and it's like nothing compared to anything.
The real problems. Well, and we've got real problems. And, and then the other hot story this week, too, was, you know, normally we like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but the speaker issue was, I mean, I was done with the speaker issue. I don't want to take him out because we don't have time. We have a White House to win. And again, we were deflected. We're deflected on these real issues. So do you feel like we were wasting our time with MTG getting all this coverage on this?
Yeah, of course. Look, the problem in politics in general, and I don't know MTG personally, I actually did PR for her book, but this is just kind of a broad statement first, is like we live in an era where most of these politicians aren't serious about governing. They're certainly not serious about doing anything for the country. It's just about celebrity hour. You know, with the advent of social media and the news and everything like that, it's just a popularity contest. People are in there, and they're entirely unserious people, and they waste a lot of time just trying to. It's like a PR campaign. They're just running PR campaigns all the time when they should be serious people who are in the business of protecting the country, and they're not doing that. So that's just part of the problem in American politics, in my opinion. But, no, it's a stupid waste of time. It doesn't matter if MTG is correct. I'm not a fan of Speaker Johnson. I've talked about this on my show. I've talked about it on other shows. He's no different than Kevin McCarthy right now. But my point was, I pointed out to people that after McCarthy was ousted and the American people, conservatives, wanted Jim Jordan, and Jim Jordan might have been the kind of conservative warrior that we wanted. Maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe he would have caved like Johnson in the end. Maybe he would have gotten in a room with the CIA and they would have threatened him. I don't know. But he's who we wanted. And the Republicans, over 100 of them, met behind closed doors to have a secret ballot so we wouldn't know who their names were. They weren't on record. And they made sure that they defeated any chance that he had to get the gavel. Jim Jordan, that is. And so then we got Speaker Mike Johnson, who nobody had ever heard of. I mean, he's a congressman from Louisiana. I'd never heard of him until this year. Never heard of him, not once. And he gets the gavel. So
I never heard of him.
The issue,
never.
Yeah, the issue is not Johnson. The issue is the other Republicans. So Johnson's the best we can get. Like, I'm sorry if people don't like to hear that. I certainly don't like to say it, but it's true. The issue is not Johnson. It's deeper. It's deeper. It's all of these Republicans who have sold out the country. So the idea that MTG is going to go out there and grandstand and say, I'm going to oust him for what? You think these people are going to give us the conservative warrior we want? No, the only person we can get is a snake. That's it.
But yeah, it's like they missed the entire big picture. You know, it's like, okay, you've got a majority of two people, you know, 2 votes, and you have no plan for what comes afterwards if you win. You know, and it's like, you know, let's focus on what the big picture is, and that's getting Joe Biden and all of his administration out of office. That should be like the number one goal. Laser focus on that. Laser focus on getting the vote out, you know, getting Republican turnout, and making sure that we're not cheated out of the election like we were the last time. And it's like, where are the grown-ups in the Republican Party? At least the RNC seems to have changed course, you know, with the new leadership, you know, with Laura Trump in there and the Trump operatives. They seem to be changing directions. But the rest of the Republican Party in the House, you know, the Congress is just not there.
Well, look at what the situation is in general in politics, and this is definitely going to offend people, and I hope it does. But like you've got dinosaurs that have been there forever, right? You've got an older population that's they're career politicians in there. They are part of the problem. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them are. And then on the other end, you have a bunch of young yuppies who have never accomplished anything in their lives that want to run for Congress and get elected as well. Whether it's AOC or, somebody on the right as well that is young, that really hasn't accomplished much in their life. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I mean, it's like you go back and look at the founding fathers and why this nation was put on such firm ground to begin with. And these were serious people. Some of them were younger, but they were accomplished. They were like battle hardened. They were brilliant. We do not have people like that, of that kind of stature, that are running for office for the most part.
We have a bartender.
Yeah, so you got old people who are already corrupt, and then you've got stupid people who have no business being in Congress because they're stupid.
Right. Well, and yeah, who is
or
AOC?
inexperienced?
She was inexperienced. She's never worn a uniform. She's never been in a war zone. I don't know. I don't even know how this woman got elected.
No, she made espresso martinis for people. That's what she did. Her specialty was making martinis.
I do like a good chocolate martini. So don't take that away from me.
Well, the sad part is when you think in a country of 365 million people.
We have no choices.
That the 500 something people we have in Congress are the best we can do.
Well, and then Drew, John and I, we interviewed George Santos on Monday, and he's very controversial, but it was a good interview. And guess what? He would vote the way we want him to vote. And he got, out of all the liars, he's the one that got ousted. I'm like, okay. So I don't know. We seem to shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, well, look, with George Santos, it's funny because here you have a guy who you don't like what he's done outside of Congress, right? So you eliminate him on the basis of you not liking what he was before he came into Congress. But when he's in Congress, he's actually doing exactly what we want him to do. And then you've got people who maybe you like what they do outside of Congress, but in Congress, they're nightmares. They're horrible people. They're selling the country to China and everywhere else, our enemies. And so what? You're gonna keep them around because what they do outside of Congress is more important than what they do in the hallowed halls of Congress? Is that what we're talking about here? Because I don't care. I don't care what you're like unless you're killing people or whatever else outside of Congress. If you're going to put the country first, I can overlook a lot of things. But we have this weird backwards ideology where it's like, I mean, it's like what they do inside Congress just gets a pass. Like that's irrelevant. It has no bearing on their life.
The vote's the only thing that counts. Their vote that's the only thing that counts. As far as what did you accomplish or what did you do?
Yep.
Well, my favorite of this week. I mean, this woman's insane. Plus, I've become a teenager, I think, now that I've been so vocal. And Maxine Waters, I want to rip her wig off. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I get I don't know. I'm becoming a teen boy. I want to rip her wig off. And this week she said how she warned that the right-wing organizations connected to Trump are training up in the hills somewhere to attack if Biden wins the election in November, Drew. So have you been up in those hills where you live?
I'm training, but by
in California.
Yeah, I'm all alone. No, well, where she is too, she's down in LA. So the only people up in those mountains are a bunch of left-wing vegan eating, hikers.
with their marijuana farms,
Yeah. They're still wearing masks up in them hills.
So what did you make of the Trump trial this week? I mean,
salacious.
It was so outrageous.
Oh my
What's going on here?
We learned that Stormy slept with 1,000 men, and the funny thing is, when you read about Trump, apparently he's a germaphobe, so he wouldn't even touch her with his pinky.
No, you looked at her; she's nasty looking, nasty.
She's so
horseface, he calls her. Yeah. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, there's just I don't think there's any way, even with a crappy New York jury selection, I don't think there's any way that this could have any other outcome than at least a hung jury. I don't see that everybody on this jury could unanimously vote to, with a guilty verdict in this case. I mean, it's just a joke. I mean, she's a lunatic. I mean, she's no different than E. Jean Carroll. I mean, these people on the left are nuts. Maxine Waters, E. Jean Carroll, Stormy Horseface. I mean, they're all lunatics.
Well, and you roll your eyes because is he going to get convicted? You know what I'm saying? I'm scared. I'm scared. And all the people I know on Wall Street, I'm like, are any of your coworkers, have they been missing the last few weeks? Because we've got some corporate finance people on there and two lawyers. Are they really going to convict him? Will there not be one person? I mean, they'll probably be too scared to go the way we want them to go. Because then the press will attack them. They'll find out who it is.
That's the only concern. But I've got to have hope that this can't go anywhere. I mean, this is so ludicrous. I don't know. I'm going to choose to be hopeful right now. I don't see any possibility that they get 12 people to go along with this scam, especially after having Stormy Daniels up there to testify. And she basically she's changed her story 16 different times. I mean, she went on Jimmy Kimmel at one point, and she signed a letter with her lawyer. Maybe it was Avenatti at the time, I forget, but she signed a letter saying that, she didn't accept payment or she didn't sleep with Trump or whatever it is, basically denying what they're trying to say he did now. And Jimmy Kimmel showed her the letter with her signature, and she said, I don't remember signing that. That doesn't even look like my signature. And then later she said, oh, yeah, that's my signature. I remember doing that. So, I mean, this person's a liar. She's a fraud. She's a kook.
So Drew, do you think the damage that they've done to the justice system, I mean, it's obvious in New York, as a conservative or Republican, there's no way you would get any kind of fair trial. In Florida, I would not say the same thing down here because what's going on up there would never be allowed down here. And do you think it's always been there and it's just getting unmasked because it's Trump and we're actually getting to see it, or is this just being perverted just for Trump?
No, well, I think that it's been perverted because of Trump, but I think that basically all these judges and the DA, I mean, they have abandoned any oath to be nonpartisan and to uphold the rule of law. They've all given that up. No, they've done irreparable damage to the justice system. I mean, we're the laughing stock of the world. It's very hard. I mean, this saying. Y'all both know it's true. I mean, it's very hard to build a reputation. It takes a lot of work and consistency. It's very easy to destroy and bring down your reputation with a couple of mistakes. And obviously, there's very little faith in the justice system anymore because of what the Democrats have done in abusing it, manipulating it, and hijacking it for their own political gain. So, no, I mean, this is very problematic. And, of course, I think about, history people say can be cyclical. I mean, I think about back in the days of Jim Crow, for example, and in the South, you couldn't get a free trial. That was a joke. Everyone knew it. I wasn't around back then. I don't know how long it took for Black Americans to finally feel like they were getting a fair shake after so much abuse down there. And we're kind of facing a similar uphill battle now. I mean, how many decades is it going to take for us to believe in the justice system again, to have faith in our elections? I mean, we are really fighting a mental battle right now on all fronts, whether it's the judicial system, also people that just believe that there's no point in voting. I mean, there are a lot of people who've just given up on the country because of what's going on. And some of it's valid and other elements of it aren't. So, if you give them any positive news, they'll say, that's not true. It's all rigged. Nothing good can happen. I had this guy on my show today named Greg Phillips, and he's invented this technology. I don't know if I call it an app, but it's basically he's gathered specific information and data on 211 million voters in America. So this is you can actually target very specifically in campaigns based on region and so on and so forth, and actually find out what people want exactly, and you can get them out to vote. So basically, he's the answer to what the left's been doing for a long time. And this is good news because also just regular citizens can sit at home and challenge different voters and things like that in their own districts because they have access to this information and voter data. So this is a huge, huge weapon that we have now at our disposal on the right, and it's being implemented just in time for the 2024 election. And I tell people, like, hey, everyone's looking for solutions. Everyone's looking for answers, some reason to be hopeful. This is one of those bright spots. This is something to be excited about. And I get people responding, lies, you're a liar. You know, it's like, go screw yourselves.
Crazy.
So do you think we're being...
You're a liar, Drew. There's no hope. There's nothing good. There's nothing happy. Everything's rigged.
Hey, at least you got the L word. I got the C word this week. So, and I've gotten that one a few times. And so I'm just trying to let that one roll off my back. You know, because
it's amazing how nasty
they don't use that on men yet. They don't use that on men yet. They still just reserve that for women, I guess. That's weird.
I wonder if does a trans woman... well, I don't want to go there.
So Drew, we have to talk. Oh, we still have a lot to talk about with you, but the Princeton professors, in a joint statement, the faculty members said our day-long solidarity fast pales in comparison to the efforts of our students who are undertaking this strike to show their solidarity with the Palestinian people of Gaza and the West Bank who are being subjected to a forced famine and genocidal assaults by Israel. So the professors at lovely Princeton, you know, and it's like 4% to get into Princeton. It's super hard to get in there. Have decided that these 24 hours, they're going to fast with the fat Princeton students that have been fasting for several days now, Drew. You know, so I'm just so over it. Because, like, Patricia Heaton from Everybody Loves Raymond, I've been following her, and she's been fighting really hard as a conservative and pro-Israeli. She played, I could only watch 2 of the snippets of what went down October 7. And like, they're stained in my head now, what I saw. So, you know, and now we've got these dumb people. And then let's talk about USC has canceled graduation. I'm like, I've been saying on X, hire some former Navy SEALs and secure the compound. I mean, what has gone down, and I'm sure you saw the footage at Michigan. People started with the PLO Palestinian flags, and the students were booing them, just like the UNC students that protected the flag that was at half-mast for those 4 marshals that these radicals were ripping down. And I've been texting the student. I had asked him to come on my show. He came on Laura Ingraham, but I think he's gotten too much press. And he's trying to become a Wall Streeter. So he's like, thanks for asking, but no. So your thoughts on these crazy protesters, Drew, that are just so stupid?
Yeah, it's gosh, you know, where to begin? I mean, it starts with the public education system, K through 12. So, you know, if you needed evidence of knowing what the root cause was, I would point to them misspelling Palestine at maybe UCLA. You know, Palastine. It's like, no, it's Palestine with an E. But you know, obviously these people didn't learn to read or write in the public education system. So there's your evidence of where they're coming. We're producing a bunch of radical dummies that can't even spell Palestine, much less point it out on a map. But of course, you'd have a hard time because there's no such thing as Palestine. But that's a whole hour-long discussion about history that the Democrats and the left don't know anything about. But no, I mean, it's just, you know, it's a combination. I mean, really, this is the rotten fruit of the left's policies for decades. I mean, and ideas. Like, for example, I mean, the coddling of these students, right? Like, what happened to the days of, like, Reagan when you just go in and say, okay, you know, all of you air traffic controllers, you're fired. You're fired. Go home. Done. If you don't show up to work, you're done. You know, that's the kind of response we need with this sort of stuff. And we could deal with this if we would just defund these universities. People forget that a lot of these private universities, even though they're private, they still take government money. So you could actually just pull the plug on all that money, and you would have these administrators change their tune really quick and shut these things down. But it goes to show that we're not really serious about shutting it down. The left especially doesn't have any problem with this, really. These are their people, by the way. They've created these monsters. I think the only question is, did they create, you know, Frankenstein? Did they create, you know, Frankenstein's monster here and it's out of control, or are they still controlling the beast? I mean, that's kind of, I think, the question is this something that's just gotten out of control? This is very Jacobin. This is very, French Revolution right now, what we're facing, which is very scary because, at the end of the day, there's no actual goal except destruction, and everyone becomes a target at some point.
Well, do you think it's a preview of what's going to happen if Trump wins? What we're going to see in January?
Yeah, you better get. I'm serious. People say this all the time. It's kind of just a thing to say, but people better make sure they're armed and have guns and everything else at their home. I'm serious. Like when Trump wins, you will see unbelievable violence. I think that will make BLM protests during the Summer of Love look like I don't know, Disneyland or something. So
it's so
yeah,
scary,
it's coming.
Drew. It's so scary. And why are we letting these dumb radicals cancel graduations? When my kids were in college, had they missed the graduation, and we already had the kids that missed all the COVID crap, graduations. I mean, I would be going crazy if my kid was at USC right now. And then I'm sure you watched the raid in Columbia when the cops were going in on the second floor with this special cherry picker. I mean, blew my mind. I'm like, I cannot believe this is happening. And they're just destroying everything at these schools. And apparently, they held the janitors. I saw an interview yesterday. It was a soundbite of the janitor. I mean, he was scared for his life. And are these kids going to end up in jail? And half of them probably, they're fake. They're not even real students.
And the other part of that, Veronica, is this was all staged for the press. They showed the pictures of them breaking the window in I forget the name of that hall there, but anyways,
Hamilton Hall.
Hamilton. And I'm laughing because I'm watching the picture. Okay, I look for details. The crash bars on the door were on the side that the idiot with the hammer was breaking the window. And after he broke the window, nobody ever reached in to grab the knob because the crash bar was on their side of the door. So they pushed the crash bar and the door opens, And it's like, this is all staged, for propaganda purposes. It has nothing to do with reality.
Yeah. It's insane. And, it's to your point. I just think about it's amazing what the left selectively has compassion for, but all of these students who, came into a situation 4 years ago where classes were, not held in person. They still spent all of those tens of thousands of dollars on education. And now they get to their senior year. They've had a little bit of normalcy, as much as one can have at a lunatic institution like the university. But, graduation is a big deal, and it's something that we all get to experience. And we sat here and we said in 2020, when they shut down everything, this is a disaster. How could they do this to our children? And now we have them doing that to the same children again, taking away that experience from them. And we have people that are sympathetic to the radicals that are disrupting things, that are ruining other people's experiences and lives. And it's just unbelievable the way the left has no respect for anybody else. They are so selfish. They are so stupid. And it's I'm sick of this tolerance that people have for it. There should be no tolerance for this.
But when do you think the leadership at these colleges is going to change, Drew? It's the University of Florida, former Senator Ben Sasse is the president of the University of Florida. It was a very controversial pick, because he was a politician. And yet he's the one that's coming out in a leadership role saying, look, these aren't children. They're adults, and they're here for an education, and we're not going to put up with it.
Here's the rules. And this isn't a daycare.
Right.
It's not a daycare.
Right. And so he's treating them as adults, not children, and they seem to be offended by that fact.
Well, this is the world that we live in, and again, this is a construct of the left. People don't believe they're adults forever sometimes. You have 50-year-olds who don't believe they're adults, that act like children. And we do this to society. We keep pushing the goalposts further and further back. I mean, look, I didn't feel like an adult as early as, my dad's generation, for example, generations before that were working at 14, 13 years old. But now we kind of pride ourselves on extending that, giving our children a little bit more of a bubble, a little bit more time to enjoy their innocence. That's what we try to do. But I think we've gone too far. And, look, people are looking to avoid the real world. Eventually you have to enter the battlefield, and that's what life is. It is a battle. It's a war, whether you like it or not. And, people go to graduate school, for example, to avoid stepping foot on the battlefield of life. Anything to delay what is associated with adulthood, responsibility, making decisions. But that's because we're, some of it's not anybody's fault. I think that even, right-leaning parents, it can happen to any of us. I'm probably, I'm not the hardest guy in the world because, I came up in a period of great, not that my parents in particular were like, the wealthiest people in the world. They worked hard, kind of upper middle class, but I wanted for nothing. I didn't have to do and make the sacrifices that, maybe they did when they were coming up. And so, inevitably you become a little bit softer.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you, talking about educators, the Chicago Teachers Union has gone flipping bonkers with their demands. And I guess they're demanding everything they want is going to cost $50 billion. I don't know if that's the right number, but some of them are unused school facilities are converted into migrant housing, police-free schools. Now this one's horrific. These are educators. 100% coverage for abortion care. So the educators want to abort their babies. And I'm disgusted. And then they want annual training for LGBTQ and issues. So I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, well, it's a hostage situation, right? I mean, they want to hold the country hostage to get what they want. And this is what I'm saying again, like we need men to step up and just laugh at these people. People need to be treated with the lack of respect that they deserve and earned with this kind of behavior. I mean, if I ran to this person, they'd never talk to me again. They'd be scared to death of me because I wouldn't tolerate it, And, we need to stop trying to respect everybody all the time. If you're disrespected, there's certain codes, that we used to live by. You would have somebody in public that would scold somebody if they violated one of those codes, if they were rude, if they did this and that. But now we live in this world where it's just like live and let live all the time. And that's why the fabric of society is just breaking all around us because we don't stand for anything. Everything goes. If we lived in a world in which, we could all agree that certain things were not tolerable in public and elsewhere, it takes a community that sits here and sets that precedent. But we're all living in our little bubbles. And these people obviously aren't respecting, those rules. We might go about our, like with the mask stuff, Okay, you want to wear a mask during COVID, even though I know it doesn't work and it's ridiculous? Go ahead and do it. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not even going to make fun of you. But look at the other side. If you didn't wear a mask, they didn't say that's up to you. They would chastise you in public. They would refuse you service. They would try to send you to prison if they could. So this is what we're dealing with, and you have to actually take on a little bit more brutal attitude if you want to save society. We can't be soft anymore. We have to acknowledge the enemy.
Did you see?
So Drew,
go ahead, John.
Just real quick. I see this partisan divide, and it's sort of like, and my attitude is like, New York can go to hell. If they want to be like that, let them live that way. That's what they voted for. That's what they get. If the people want to, send all these illegal immigrants to New York City and they want to be taken care of the rest of their life, fine. Let the liberals put up with that. Just don't come to Florida, okay? Leave us alone. The liberals, stay in New York. Don't come to Florida. We don't want you. Is that where our country's headed?
No. I wish it was headed that way, but they're locusts. They won't leave you alone, John. They see Florida as a bastion of freedom and they want to destroy it. It's not enough to take New York. You could give them, you could give them 49 of the 50 states and say, okay, you liberals can ruin 49 states. We want California because it's the prettiest state. All the conservatives are going to California, okay? And they would come to California and ruin California because they can't tolerate you being happy.
Yeah,
I just
don't
leave
get
me
it.
the hell alone. That's all I want.
John's like, no. Well, you don't have to worry. We're concealed carry. We're packing. My new slogan: always be packing. But I wanted to ask you, because I'm thoroughly revolted by this man now. I don't ever want to see him again. And that is RFK Jr. He was doing an interview with this. I don't even know who she was. Their shoes were off. Her seat were folded. Her legs were folded under her on the sofa. His shoes were off. And she asked him about abortion, and he said, oh, women can choose, and it can be up to the day before birth. And I'm like, and this was the guy people were touting. Oh, he needs to be Trump's VP. He's a radical bastard.
He's got worms eating his brain.
So I'm sure you saw the clip, Drew, because you're an X guy, like I'm an X gal now. We're all over X, and that clip went viral.
Yeah, I love it because Trump put out a Truth Social message a couple weeks ago in which he said that he'd rather have Biden than RFK Jr. And, of course, he was drawing attention to the fact that people were overlooking how radical RFK Jr. was. And a lot of people were attacking Trump for making that claim, saying, that's ridiculous. What is he doing? But, of course, Trump is light years ahead of other people strategically. Well, it turns out that Trump is exactly right. Now, Biden is the most dangerous president we've ever had, but he doesn't know what planet he's on. He's just an empty vessel of destruction for the left. Biden himself, he'll do whatever they tell him. But RFK Jr. actually is the very radical, and he's obviously, I guess the only thing I'll give him credit for is at least he was honest. Obama and the Clintons and all these people in the past, Joe Biden, they pretend to be these moderates until they get in there, and then you find out who they really are. And RFK Jr. has the most radical stance on abortion you could possibly have. Infanticide is what he supports. He is a lunatic. He's always been a lunatic. He's also a creep. He's a weird person. And I think it's hilarious because a lot of these people are all grifters, but all of the DeSantis supporters, right, who wanted DeSantis. And one of the things they said about DeSantis they loved is that he was pro-life. He was the most pro-life candidate there. And now all those people that were supporting DeSantis have decided they're going to support RFK Jr. And here comes RFK Jr. that has the most radical abortion stance you could possibly have, and that's their guy. So it shows you how unprincipled people are, how stupid they are, and how just devoid their minds are of facts and reality when it comes to the danger the country faces, the reality of Trump's successes and failures, his strengths and his weaknesses. So they would not support Trump, who single-handedly, with his Supreme Court appointments, got Roe v. Wade overturned. So he's done more for the pro-life movement than any president in history. And these people are supporting RFK Jr., who's the radical. It's just hilarious
crazy.
In some way.
They're crazy. Okay, well, the final thing I wanted to ask you about was the Jack Smith, placing those classified covers, and it was a fake photo, and so I've been on X going, who's going to hold this dude accountable? He's a complete liar. He's the one that needs to have handcuffs and be thrown in jail.
And Veronica, you and I, we flagged that as soon as those pictures came out, because we've both been in the military.
I've handled classified. It's a nightmare.
Right. And we sit there and saw the picture and says, these are just cover sheets. This is not classified. It's a cover sheet. It doesn't mean anything, But they stage it anyway.
So thoughts on that, Drew?
So to be honest, I heard absolutely nothing that was just said. Everything just disappeared and was garbled. But Jack Smith sucks. Wait, give me the paraphrase again, quick. Now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. No, that he staged the photo with the fake classified covers, and John was saying, because we both handled classified in the military, and it's no fun to handle because you sign your life away and will end up in handcuffs. This man now needs to end up in handcuffs because he staged this freaking fake photo. Okay, Drew cannot hear us, he's saying. So, Hold on, everyone. We'll get
Okay.
Drew back on. Oh, are you there? Oh, now there you are, Drew. We're talking about the.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah,
I can't
we
hear
hear
anything
you.
for some reason.
Okay. All right. Let me pause right quick, and we'll get Drew back on the line. Just a
So
second.
I'm hearing him fine.
Yeah. All right, we got Drew back. Drew, we were talking about the classified covers that Jack Smith made that fake photo, and John and I have handled classified. And if we messed it up back in the day in the military, we would have handcuffs on. So I think who's going to hold Jack, this lawyer, accountable now? He belongs in prison because he's lied.
Yeah, well, nobody's going to hold him accountable. That's the reality. We're just going to have to try and get through this. This is another one of those things. Speaker Johnson, he's not willing to try to defund this whole thing and basically get rid of Jack Smith in whatever capacity he could be. The thing with all this stuff too is, he's not going to be able to do it. Speaker Johnson doesn't have the people in the Republican Party to support him that he needs and everything else. So all these things are just pipe dreams anyway. So, no, I mean, this is just something that we're going to have to keep in our memories. We need to be keeping a list of these types of grievances that we have, a list of people that need to be held accountable, and they need to be held accountable down the road when we have the opportunity to do so. You cannot allow rogue criminals like Jack Smith to get away with this type of behavior. There have to be very serious repercussions. Otherwise, this type of thing just grows, evolves, it proliferates in society. And that's already what we have at the college campuses and everything else, because people that rioted and burned down stores and looted with BLM, they didn't face consequences. So these people live a life. Hillary Clinton lives a life. Democrats live a life. Deep staters live a life in which they believe they are untouchable. And they believe that because they have been so far. But the moment you start to make them pay, I guarantee you behavior starts to change. We know that. That's not a complicated life lesson.
And on that is Target came out yesterday, because I gave up Target more than a year and a half ago, and they're only going to sell most of their Pride garbage that was in your face. I gave it up because of the Satan stuff. You can be Pride, I don't care, but it was in our face, and we live in kind of a God country here. And so now they're only going to sell it supposedly online.
Stop rubbing it in my face every time I come on here. Veronica, you and John, I live in California, and you sit here every single time I come on. I'm going to stop coming on because I live in Florida. It is so great. It is so free. I have a concealed carry. This is God's country. How do you live over there in Satan land, Drew?
I always say it's God, guns, country, and sweet tea, Drew. That's where we live in the Panhandle.
Hey, Drew, if you'd been here last weekend on the beach for the Salak air show, you would say, I'm moving to Florida right now.
Yeah, you can come vacay upstairs in my guest suite upstairs anytime with the baby and your wife. So free pass here. But no, Target is pushed. They felt, obviously, because I haven't shopped there for a year and a half, and I gave up my credit card because I got the nasty letter going, you haven't used it. And so I'm going to officially go out and say that I broke Target. So now they're putting this Shiza online. And so, and I missed Target because it was really cute. I missed the, Joanna Gaines Magnolia line and stuff. So Target's feeling the pushback finally, Drew, thanks to my shopping habits.
That's right. Veronica single-handedly got Target to bend the knee finally. No. You and millions of other Americans that took it seriously and understood. And it was a red line for you guys and gals. You did, make this happen, I think. Now the question is, will we remember? Will we let them get off with it? How long until they just go back to doing what they were before, and we have short memories, and we're like, well, I really do like Disneyland. I've got to go to Disneyland, But bravo. I mean, these are the types of things, though, I think that we should celebrate victories when we have victories, and this is one of those. And the reality is, at some point, the American consumer, the American citizen that spends money and chooses where to spend their money, you do have enormous power, but it's in numbers, right? It's when you unite as a group, and we can make that change. So
what are we missing, Drew? We've hit all the hot topics for the I love doing a roundup with you. We love having you on. Tell us about your show this week and who's on today.
Well, I had Professor Nicholas Giordano on. He's a friend of mine. He'll be on Gutfeld on Tuesday. He's a regular on Gutfeld these days.
Okay.
When I met him, he was not so famous, but now he's famous. He has eclipsed me. I must say, Veronica, he's much more famous than me. But that's not that hard. But I had him on. He's a professor of political science, and he has a podcast, the TIS Report. So we talk about the campus protests. He offers a lot of interesting perspective on these kids, because he's around them, right, at these colleges and what's happened to them. And then I had Greg Phillips on, who is the creator of that, not app, but system that he's created to basically help prevent cheating on the left, and also to help the right target and get more voters out. So it's pretty cool, pretty interesting guy. He actually worked with Catherine Engelbrecht, who was just on Tucker the other day talking about how they plan to use illegals to steal the election in 2024. So, anyway, but both of them happen to be clients of mine too. So
awesome. Well, always a pleasure. We can find you on all the podcast platforms, the Drew Allen Show, and then your TV show. I know you share it, and it's on Patriot TV, and everybody can watch it. So can't wait to check out the new episode that just dropped.
Hey, well, I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on again, and thanks for making me contemplate moving to Florida again. I'll talk to my wife about it soon.
The guest bedroom, actually, it's a 2-room upstairs with a bathroom. You're welcome anytime, and we'll go boating. It's almost time to go boating here. But anyways, we've always loved having Drew Allen on from the Drew Allen Show, so check him out, and we'll be right back on Veronica Live. Welcome back to Veronica Live, and I'm here with my wingman, John, and it's kind of our debrief, the last hour of the show here. Always have so much to talk about. I told him I'm starving in here. I need some Chick-fil-A, man. I need to go be a Chick-fil-A customer. Isn't that terrible? I hate that I'm like a grown woman, and I actually crave Chick-fil-A, Oh my goodness. And their vanilla milkshake. Good, I know. Yeah. And then the service is so nice. But we've had a powerhouse show, but we have stuff in our afterburner that we have to talk about. So really it's the afterburner debrief, I think, is what we need to call this. Yeah. And the one that pushed me over the edge was the Swiss Army knife, the new woke Swiss Army knife to drop blade. Holy shiza, due to violence in the world. Okay, I always have a Swiss baby army knife. I call it a baby one. And it's got the knife. It's got the scissors. It has the tweezers. It has the toothpick. It has the nail file. One of them you can use as a screwdriver, John. Do not be taking my knife away. I use that to open a package. And I just recently reordered one. It's pink camouflage. It is adorable, by the way, because the one I actually bought in Switzerland years ago disintegrated. So, okay, why are they making decisions for me about the knife? Tell me, John.
First off, the knife in a Swiss Army knife, how long is that blade?
The main staple. well, I know. On the mini one, it's probably 2 inches.
Yeah, exactly. So because that you carry it on the airplane, because it's not a threat to anybody.
Well, I always take it off when I'm traveling because I'm like, oh my gosh. Because, one time I had it flying back from Japan and they confiscated. I used to have one that was the baby one that had the Air Force emblem, and I haven't been able to find that one. And they haven't been selling them on base lately. So I'm sad about my Air Force emblem one. But now I've got the cute pink camo. Leave my damn freaking knife alone. Sometimes you need a knife, John. Sometimes I'm a girl that always be carrying and always be packing and always have a Swiss Army knife.
So what do you call a Swiss Army knife without a knife in it? It can't still be a Swiss Army knife.
Well, it does have scissors. I use the damn scissors all the time,
So when we start calling Swiss Army scissors, I mean, is that... it just shows, maybe it'll be another case of go woke and go broke, I mean, it's like, who's going to buy the thing with no knife in it? I mean, I'm certainly not going to buying one.
It's just gotten out of control, because this is, because I know men carry knives, and I've just like that little one I have them on my keychain because they come in mega handy, and especially if you have like a string. I must be the military woman in me. Like in your uniform, you'd get inspections in college. If you had a string, you had to cut it. So I gotta have that. I gotta have the knife. I've gotta have the scissors. When you have that green lettuce in your teeth and there's no toothpick at the restaurant, it saves you from walking around looking like a buffoon. Now you're taking my knife. Come on.
Who comes up with these stupid ideas, though? I mean, who is?
Well,
the
only thing I can think of is this week. I guess London re-elected their mayor, and he's Muslim, I guess. And one of the things that came out of it is they've had 1,000 stabbings in London this past year, and this blew my mind. 40,000 cell phones have been stolen as well. So, but an army Swiss knife. I mean, it's a little. These things are little. This isn't.
I know. It's
some
just,
samurai knife.
More stupid woke stuff. You're not gonna kill anybody with a Swiss Army knife. I'm sorry.
Give me a freaking break. I mean, now that they're going woke, so this makes me. I mean, Switzerland is a neutral country, but they want you to have a weapon in your house. Now you're taking my little Swiss knife. I paid $25 for. Thank God I ordered it. Oh my gosh.
Is it Switzerland where everybody's in the national?
Yes.
Guard, basically, and they all have weapons in their house.
They all have weapons, and this is made. This Victorinox is made in Switzerland. Because when the one that I demolished because I used it so much, it was made in Switzerland, and I forgot what their national flower is, but the last one I had the national flower. I'll Google that while we're chatting. But is it? Why are they making these decisions? Who cares?
Well, it follows the story that follows that is Bud Light sales continue to decline in wake of Dylan Mulvaney controversy. Right back to, go woke, go broke. And you're trying to appeal to this 1/10 of 1%. If it's even that, maybe it's a 0.5%. Of a 10th of a percent.
The Target article that I was quoting with Drew earlier, it says Gen Z's 30% of them, identify, as LGBTQ. Now this is crap.
Right,
give me
exactly.
A break.
It's
crap.
Just, they're pumping up the numbers with trying to get us to believe this is mainstream, and that's exactly what it is. They're trying to make it sound like it's mainstream, and we all need to bend. That we're out of fashion, that our belief systems are all perverted and theirs are the only ones that are right. And again, it's this tiny percentage of people that are actually trans, yet they want to force us. It's not good enough for us to let them live, and do what they want. Okay, that's not good enough. We have to be forced to believe, we have to be forced to approve of their lifestyle. And sorry, it's never going to happen. It's just. And yet we allow, because good people won't stand up, good people won't speak up and push back on this stuff. And the ones that do, we applaud. Look at Trump. What does Trump do all the time? He pushes back, right? The rest of the politicians are cowards. And Trump's the only one that stands up and pushes back on this stuff because the others are afraid. In 2016, when they was asked a question, okay, how many, about closing the border? How many will close the border? Who was the only one that raised their hand? Trump. The rest of them were cowards.
Total cowards, and
right.
And if we don't win in November, we're screwed. I've been saying this nonstop. And this week, Biden, I don't know. I'm sure you saw him on the CNN interview, and apparently he told like 17 lies. He was only on there 20 minutes, and he told like 17 lies. Because you know why? Because all of the media is in bed with these people, and they push out all these fake numbers that he was talking the entire time.
And says he inherited inflation was 9% when he took office. Now, absolute lie. Do you think the reporter knew the number? Okay, because the reporter said the number. So the reporter had actually maybe done some investigation or knew something about what the numbers were. And do you think she said anything that would have pushed back on that? Absolutely not. Didn't say anything to say, you just lied to me. You just lied to the American people by saying, it was 9% when you took office. It was 1.8% when you took office. That's what it was. And she knew damn well it was, but wouldn't say anything. So when the press doesn't do their job, we all get impacted by it. And it's
well,
a
they
sad,
need to do their
sad state
damn
of
job,
affairs.
because I'm tired of the fakeness that we're dealing with every day. And then you got that Jack Smith lying about the classified. The Dems, someone has said, and I think this could be true, Dems are demonic. I hate to think this way.
The Jack Smith story is not just the fake photo of Veronica. It turns out that his prosecutors have lied to the judge in her courtroom about the evidence. And apparently it's come out that the boxes of evidence that were removed from Mar-a-Lago, they were taken to the FBI headquarters in Washington. And the guy that's in charge there was the guy that was in charge in Michigan with the Gretchen Whitmer mess up there. If you remember the kidnapping and all that.
Oh, yeah.
The same FBI agent that was in charge of that field office is now in charge of the Washington field office. Well, it turns out they've been monkeying with the evidence, that the documents in those boxes are not the document, do not match the inventory of what was removed from Mar-a-Lago. So somebody's been in there in the evidence room mucking around with those files in those boxes. So you have no idea. The chain of custody has been broken. And in law, when you go to court, if you break the chain of custody, you have zero confidence that those documents are legitimate anymore because you don't know if somebody's tampered with them. So you add that to the fake photo, the FBI agents or some other government agent that has access to the FBI files in there monkeying with these classified documents. And now the judge is saying, well, wait a minute, the evidence is tainted. How can we have a trial? So the judge has put that trial on indefinite hold. So, and then she's having a hearing to see if Jack Smith.
Well, and I put on X finally one for the, finally a win for the Trump team, because we've gotten slapped down.
Well, it's not a win. It's the fact that you've got a judge that's actually doing her job and acting like a judge, and believe it or not, following the law unlike what's going on in New York. As we saw with Stormy Daniels. It's like, what was the purpose of Stormy Daniels' testimony this past week? What was the purpose of it?
Oh,
is Trump being tried?
Oh, it was so awful.
What's he being
it was
tried
so,
for?
and then I don't even.
But it had
and
nothing,
everybody's believing
a
porn star that has said she slept with 1,000 men, giving us a salacious story, and then she tried to pretend like she was a rape victim. Oh, I was dizzy. I was shaking. I'm like, what is this? I mean, so coached, Sean. So coached.
I know, and they admit that she was coached.
A professional sex worker pretending like Trump raped her.
Well, not only that, it has absolutely nothing to do with the case. The case is about a bookkeeping payment to keep her quiet. Okay, a bookkeeping payment. That's what the case is about. Her testimony is 100% irrelevant. It has nothing to do with. There's no charges associated with it. It's nothing but. It's designed to make Donald Trump look bad. That's why they asked for a mistrial, because the case law says you do that, you prejudice the jury with unrelated testimony trying to make the defendant look bad. That's grounds for a mistrial. The defendant can't get a fair hearing. That's why I said this judge has perverted the law so badly. I don't know how anybody in New York thinks they could get a fair trial for anything with judges like what they've got going on there. I mean, every bit of that. She should have been thrown out.
At one point, too, the judge was, saying he might throw Trump in jail. And I saw the tweet, or I saw an interview with Mayor Adams. Is like, well, we're ready for Trump if they put him in jail. I mean, these people are just pathetic. Pathetic.
I wish it would be great if they put him in jail.
You probably make friends.
The optics would never stop. Okay. But the fact that you've got a judge that is gagged the defendant, okay, the defendant in the case, that he can't defend himself. It's like unheard of. Yet all the prosecution witnesses get to go on TV and tell lie after lie after lie. You have to make up stories. Here you got, what's his name, the one attorney there. He's decided he's going to run for Congress, and he's using the trial to try and launch a congressional campaign.
Oh, they all
Avenatti.
Even the AG too. She wants to be governor. So yeah, they're all pathetic.
But this is a real trial, and it's real criminal consequences. Where are the grown-ups at? Okay,
I don't know, because if Trump ends up in jail, what's going to happen?
Well, I think the best case I heard was what they want is a guilty verdict, and they don't care how they get there. They don't care how perverted. They don't care what they have to do to get a guilty verdict. And my guess is, I won't even be going out on a limb on this. I bet you this is going to happen. If the jury finds him not guilty, the judge will set aside the verdict and make a directed verdict of guilty. That's what's going to happen, Veronica. If they come back with a not guilty verdict, and the judge can do that.
Okay.
His behavior.
I guess I haven't watched enough Law and Order to know that. Oh my gosh.
Well, it's like jury nullification. It's like, you can do whatever you want. O.J. Simpson was the perfect case of jury nullification. Even though all the evidence says he killed her, the jury said, nope, we're not sending a black man to prison because we don't agree with the law. And that's legitimate. That's the way it works. But the judge can set aside the jury's verdict and say, I'm gonna enter a directed verdict, and I would not be surprised to see it happen because.
I don't know how, and it's weeks more because the next, who's the lawyer, his former lawyer is coming on trial that's also a loser liar. And it's just been, all these seedy people. And then, of course, I comment and everybody's like, oh, you love Trump, he's a liar. And I'm like, I don't even know.
What's incredible, Veronica, is they still have not said what crime he's charged with. He's on trial. And they won't even tell his lawyers what he's being charged with, because it's Alvin Bragg. As the judge has said, well, you can tell us what the crime is when you get around to it. And it's like, how can you possibly have a jury sitting there listening to testimony when you have no idea what the crime is and what the qualification? What should you be listening for? If there's a crime involved, what are we trying to hear? What are we supposed to remember? It's astonishing.
It's just all about the headline. It's disgusting.
Right. That's exactly
that
what
woman.
it is.
That woman, who hangs out with sex workers, and she's so proud of herself because she's directed and written, And what was her comment? I make more making a porn movie than 8 hours of, 2 hours of work on my back than 8 hours with a real job. I'm like, well, there you go. We're so proud of you. You're disgusting. Well, the other story that's very, very moving that's in the afterburner is about rape and not aborting the baby. Woman conceived in gang rape says it's time to rethink abortion exception. And so this woman's mother had been a nanny and had been raped trying to go see a movie by, I think it was 8 men. And then she went back to her house because she was so shook up, moved back with her parents, and then found out she was pregnant and had the baby. And wow, what a powerful story, because this woman, when she finally found out that her mother had been raped, contemplated suicide, thought she was not worthy, but then thought of Jesus, that everybody's created in the likeness of God, and then started her charity, John Choices for Life, and it's traveled around helping these women. I think the stat that scared me the most was in 2022, 79% of rapes went unreported is in this story, and that's just so awful. But, the other stat that's in this story, too, is that she's connected with 17 rape survivors who'd aborted their babies, and 14 of them have tried to kill themselves, and 1 actually did. So, abortion is horrible, rape is horrible, but to get to the other side to allow this person to have a chance is the bottom line, you know?
Well, that's the thing, Veronica. You know, life is life. Okay. You know, we've talked to Kathy Barnett. Similar
that was one
situation.
of our most moving ever interviews.
I mean, I mean, her story was brought. It would bring anybody to tears. Okay, to think that she could have been aborted, and the same thing with this woman here. To think she could have been aborted. What would not have happened? Okay, the children that she has would never have been conceived. Future generations would never be conceived. You know, when you end that life, that's the end of it. You cut it off. There's no chain of life to follow. And people don't get that in the big picture. They look at the little stuff, you know, and it's like, look at it from a human race context. Maybe your grandson is going to be the next Einstein or something, you know. The thing is, you never know. Okay, you don't know what gifts God gives to anybody, and to sit there and say they have the hubris to say, I'm going to act in place of God and terminate this life because I think it's worthless.
Well, and that's what she says is that these children are considered worthless and deserve to die. But, you know, the strong quote from her is none of us comes into this world choosing how we got here. If they want to think about women and their children, I am the mother's child and my life deserves to be saved just like anybody else. I mean, I would always, no matter how you got here, you know, I love the life that I've been able to live and, you know, my 2 children and my wonderful husband, and I've lived all over the world, the experiences, and how you got here doesn't really matter, you know.
Right. It's irrelevant, you know, whether you were wanted or not wanted, whether you were an accident or not an accident, you know, it's irrelevant. The fact is you're here, and it's what do you do now that you're here? What do you do with it?
So a beautiful article, and you know what a wonderful. People forget about this, and Choices for Life is the charity, and. You know, I just don't want abortion. I don't want abortion. But here's the other thing. We need to put these people in jail, you know. And I mean, you helped put that sex offender in jail. What was that, a week ago? 2 life terms.
2 weeks ago, yeah, exactly. So, and, you know, it's like bad stuff happens all over the world. It happens every day, everywhere you go. And that's just human nature, and the fact is, you either value life or you don't value life. And well, you know, under our God,
we have to value life. Okay? You know, and I wish I would have had 4 children. Somebody can give me 2. There's still time. But if somebody comes to do the homework
and change the diapers,
I'll take diapers over homework.
but just think of the opposite of what. You know, we believe in life. We cherish life. You know, we love babies, and think of the opposite. Think of the savages, the Hamas savages, and what they did on
putting
October
a baby
7th.
in an oven. That's why I'm done with these protesters.
Put that on the scale, okay? Put that on the scale, and tell me how which side wins, the savage or the humanity? Well,
or building your command centers under a hospital where people are being treated from war. So, you know, I'm tired of these dumb now Princeton professors, and literally only 4% get into Princeton because I had a friend's daughter try to get in. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be the elite of the elite, and then you act like this, and then these professors act like this. Who the hell would want to go to Princeton at this point?
Well, the problem is they all have such a soft life. They've never had to be held accountable for anything. They've never had to do the heavy lifting. They're not the ones out there. You know, as many years ago, you know, we were out on patrol one time, Easter morning, right? I'm sitting there in the airplane and the sun's coming up. It's Easter morning, Easter sunrise. And I'm thinking, how many people know we're out here protecting and defending their freedom?
Right. Working 24/7 in the military, right. You know, right. and sometimes it's not peachy when somebody's killed.
Right.
So no, these people don't know sacrifice or hardship or
Exactly.
living in a foreign country before there was ever FaceTime. It was $7 a minute when I lived in Panama to call home. You know what I'm saying? And the first time I lived in Japan, it was expensive. There weren't all these Skypes and FaceTime things that everybody was using.
And a lot of these countries you go to, they are hellholes. Okay, I feel sorry for the people that have to live that way. But
that's where I saw the first time I saw poverty was in Panama. That was the first time. Children on the street, no shoes, just wearing some shorts and no shirt. It's the first time I saw poverty. And I, and then these people have their EBT cards and, their long ass 3-inch nails because they're going to the nail salon. Well, these children are trying to just get a meal, one meal probably for the day. So we don't know what hardship is. We've become soft, fat, as you say. Those Princeton students need to be on the hunger strike.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm not pro Ozempic, but they might need some. So, some of us our fat asses are in the gym 3 times this week. Killing me, but I'm there, baby. Fat but fit. I'm not that fat, just so you know.
Right, but you I'm
putting in the work. It's killing me.
You get the results, and they don't put in the work, and they want the results without the work, and that's the problem.
Well, and they don't even understand what terrorists are, and then all of these people that don't love our country, and then all these people on student visas that are protesting and say death to America. I'm sorry, your ass is grass, and it's on an airplane out of here, so you can go fight in Gaza. Let's see how you like it with rubble all around you and no food.
What's really funny is when they confront these protesters and they start asking them questions, about, well, where is Palestine? And they're like, well, it's occupied right now. Palestine's occupied. They're referring to Israel. And it's like, well, there's never been a place called Palestine, right? Show me a map that's ever had a place called Palestine that any world body has recognized. In history, it's like, nope, doesn't exist. It's how long the Jews been in that area, in Judea and Samaria? How long have the Jews been there? Well, they're invaders. They've been there for 3,000 years. Okay, and the really sad part is whatever you call them, Palestinians, or I don't know what to call them because that's what they call themselves. But if you notice that the Jordanians don't want them, the Egyptians don't want them.
Because people don't want
the Saudis
terrorists in their country.
Right. But the Arabs, don't want them. Now, why is that?
Because it starts with a T and it ends with an S. They're terrorists,
Right.
So
if the Arab countries who, and again, I think the number I heard, the population of the Arab countries in the region is like 400 million versus, 10 million that live in Israel, 10 million Israelis. That just shows you the proportion of this thing. The 400 million don't want anything to do with them.
Right.
And so to me, it's like the whole thing, it's like you got your 2-state solution, they gave you Gaza and the West Bank. Okay, you can do it as you please. The Israeli army withdrew. They had nothing to do with it. They let you all do your own elections. You elected terrorists. You allowed terrorists to build all these tunnels. You allowed the terrorists to use the schools for weapons caches. You allowed the terrorists to use hospitals for their headquarters. And you get what you reap, right? Is that somewhere in the Bible? Something about, you reap what you sow?
I'm telling you.
And they sow terrorism, and that's what they're getting. And I think Israel has every right to go wipe them off the face of the earth. And, I don't know. Are they redeemable? I don't know that they're redeemable. So if you're irredeemable, what's the consequence? Getting wiped off the face of the earth.
But who wants a terrorist It's just like all the illegals, because one of my Republican contacts over in the Panhandle sent me a picture this week, because in Milton, Florida, a bus showed up and offloaded all kinds of illegals, John. So they're getting dumped in Florida, and we can't control it, and we don't know who you are. You know what I'm saying? Well, and we had that Guatemalan that kidnapped an 11-year-old and raped the 11-year-old this week or last week. So we don't know who you are. And see, they don't want those people in those countries. They don't want these Palestinians in their countries because they've been acting like terrorists. Well,
I think Governor DeSantis, if I remember reading the story correctly this week, that he's contemplating calling a special session to pass a law similar to what they have in Texas, where they allow the sheriffs to arrest and deport these illegals, which I think would be a fabulous idea. Because I know the Florida sheriffs would be, I know our sheriff would be.
Well, talking of sheriffs, that one funny story, because I saw this one too everywhere on X. The serial thief used self-checkout to rob same Target store of over $60,000 worth of items. So, number one, I hate freaking self-checkouts because it never goes well for me, okay? So Walmart always, because when I gave up Target, I started going back to Walmart for more things because, my dogs are spoiled and I get them rotisserie chickens, and I don't give them the skin, so they're lean dogs. But okay. So I've started going a little more back to Walmart, but I get sick of having to do the self-checkout because it's a pain in the ass. It never works. Something's always. I tried to do a self-checkout at the little grocery outlet near me. I was trying to buy a sweet potato for my dogs. They are so damn spoiled, and I make them a sweet potato, and it wouldn't come up. The lady had to come over. She tried yams, then she's trying potatoes. I'm like, and it was literally 30 cents for this damn sweet potato, and it took an act of God to buy it. So, yeah. And so here's this lady. She's just going up there pretending like she's buying stuff, John. Pretending. And,
I'm amazed at, and this is not the first story I've heard about the amount of retail theft that occurs at these self-checkout counters is apparently pretty high, and there's places that are actually eliminating the self-checkout counters.
Well, they never work, so I hate to. It's like when I go to a restaurant, because occasionally I will go to Sweet Olive Garden because I have to say it's cheap, the food's efficient. And it always tastes, it's consistent, with the quality of the food. But it's a cheap place, and they want you to use the damn little thing on the table. And so, my husband's like, I'll do it. And then it comes up, split the check. It'll come up there. He's like, are we splitting it today? And I'm like, okay, my boyfriend of 31 years, we're not splitting it. But damn it, when I go to this store or the restaurant and he's not here, I'm not doing that stuff because nothing ever goes right on that either. So, and then he's like, oh, it's asking me to take a survey. Should I take the survey? And I'm like, yeah, tell the survey to F off.
I don't know. That's one of the options on there, but
yeah, I'm not taking your damn survey when the waitress can take my credit card and then she still wants he wants my dumbass tip. So, which I always tip at least 20% or more. My husband says I'm an over tipper, but anyways.
But to me, I like Sam's. Okay, I go in there at Sam's. I've got the app on my phone.
Yeah. I
scan the stuff, put it in the basket, and then you walk up to the door. Of course, the line's at the door now, not at the cash register. But they sit there and they go through and they scan the items and compare it to what you scanned, and it's either good or bad. And to me, it's kind of like that. That's kind of the smart way to do it.
Well,
but, they put all the
Seattle had like the Amazon store that you put everything in the cart, you swipe your card, you never even interact with a human, and there was no way to, like you said, it automatically knew when you walked out of the store that you'd have paid for all the items. Now that's what I'm talking about. But when I have to go find a damn yam on the stupid little, push button thing,
look it up,
and then the poor sweet old lady comes over and she's like, it's there somewhere, and we both can't find it. So maybe my dogs don't deserve it. They eat better than humans. Their little steaks and their rotisserie chickens and sweet potatoes. But so that woman, lovely. She just stole and stole and stole, and not, I hope she's held accountable. But it's Callie, so she'll probably just get her a little swat on her tush, and off you go. The other story, and I have to talk about it because I'm a Gator mom, is the pushback from the University of Florida. They just didn't take these protesters. I know we mentioned it before, but my husband had sent me this story and was like, you have to read it because it's so good. Now I can't find the story, John, in our stack of stuff here. I'm trying to find the page. What page is that on? I know you have it. You can't find it either. I had it a minute ago, but I jumped to the... well, anyways, the bottom line was, Senator Sass, who was a former Nebraska, I found it. It's on page 9. He is now the president of the University of Florida, and he's, the story headline, the adults are still in charge at U of F. Higher education isn't daycare. Here are the rules we follow on free speech and public protests. So you just can't. What I like is that parents, I think, are happy with this, Why should and one of the lines in here, one parent put it bluntly, why the hell should anybody spend their money to send their kid to college? Employers watching this fiasco are asking the same question. And that was last week, too. Clay Travis posted that if you were getting a Columbia resume over a University of Florida resume, you're going to choose UF because you know that these students aren't allowed, they're not out there protesting. And, I don't know, Florida, we just are not allowing this. Thank you, Jesus. Because even USF down in Tampa, they tried to protest and the cops were arresting them.
And the thing I like about what Ben Sass did at Florida, it's like, here's the rules. You are adults, okay? If you go into college, you're most likely over 18. The 16-year-olds going to college are exceptions, okay, for the smart ones. But so most of them are over 18, which is legally an adult. So it's like, here's the rules. Follow the rules, or there's consequences for breaking the rules. I think, that sounds like a good social construct. We have laws, follow the laws, or there's consequences for breaking the law. And you need to learn that. And so you hear all these protesters, and the ones that astonish me, Veronica, are the ones that get arrested and then turn around and say, we want our records expunged.
Oh, my gosh. The demands. Well, not at University of Florida, because actions have consequences. At the University of Florida, we have repeatedly, patiently explained two things to protesters. We will always defend your rights to free speech and free assembly, but if you cross the line on clearly prohibited activities, you will be thrown off campus and suspended. And in Gainesville, that means, get this, a 3-year prohibition from campus. That's serious. We said it. We mean it. We enforced it. We wish we didn't have to, but the students weighed the cost, made their decisions, and will own the consequences as adults. We're a university, not a daycare. We don't call emotions. We wrestle with ideas. And that is huge because, UF is like the hardest school to get into. Everybody that goes to UF is valedictorian, salutatorian, top of their class. It's the public. For years, people have been saying, and it's ranked number 1 now. So it's the public Harvard of Florida. And then my son went to Miami. That's considered the private Harvard of Miami. Because once again, of Florida, Miami, you have to be number 1 or number 2. And they're just not going to allow this, which is great. Because all these people that have worked so hard to get into these schools, you really don't want to mess it up if you want to get a job someday. And
it's not like the University of Florida is some conservative, bastion of conservative thought, okay? Alachua County, which is where University of Florida is at, is a solid Democrat county. They are liberal leftist to Florida is Alachua County. Republicans don't stand a chance of getting elected to anything in Alachua County. So you're dealing with a very liberal, population anyway. And yet, and that's probably why Ben Sass was not a popular choice because
they protested
he was
him.
bringing something.
Do you remember?
Right.
They protested him.
Yep. So, but he's the right person and he's got the right idea. And I think one of the ones that I laughed at, and I was like, was this girl that was a protester. She was arrested, and believe it or not, the university expelled her, and she was supposed to graduate. And she was flipping out because she'd been kicked out of the university and she wasn't graduating.
Life's about choices.
And she's crying, and it's not fair, and all this stuff about, it's like, hey, you're the one that did this. Nobody put a gun to your head. Now you got to pay the consequences of it.
Well,
so don't sit there and cry
I guess you can try to get
expelled.
back into UF in 3 years, but
exactly.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that. But yeah, I'm sick of the we're free speechers here. We're definitely free speechers. And then I sent you the, because we did the George Santos interview a few days ago, and I shared it on X, and I got some hate off there, and one of them was pretty awful. It was pretty, and I think I know who wrote it actually, and I'm pretty sure I've got this down.
I'm sure the person lives in his mother's basement, probably.
Yeah, here where we live in Florida, I know who wrote that. Yeah, so. You got to deal with the hate, but we're not trying to keep janitors as hostage. Those poor damn janitors. I mean, the one guy was still traumatized, and I would be too. You know what I'm saying? If somebody could hold you and you're kind of a kidnap victim, he's like, he said he went to go back to work, and guess what? There were still more of these people on campus, so he turned around and went home. Some poor guy barely making it, John. He's a janitor at a college. It's not like he's the king of some country, working hard for his money, and then they kidnapped him, and now they're still on the damn campus of Columbia, and the poor dude was like probably having PTSD from the whole experience.
Veronica, the thing that surprised me, and it was that none of the janitors punched out any of those little weak leftists, because they would have.
And he was an African American man. He was an African American man, working hard.
I'll tell you what. If I was a working guy and I was in that kind of thing, and you get some little trust fund idiot in there that's mom and daddy or somebody's paying $100,000 a year for them to be there, and they sit there and say, "Well, we're not letting you go." It's like, oh, really? I'll show you what not letting go looks like, and punch him in the face. And that's all.
They'd be crying. They would really be crying.
They would fold so fast it wouldn't be funny. He hit me. That's like, really?
And then they try to sue you, But the poor janitor's not. The poor dude's trying to make the place beautiful, and then the footage of inside and what they did to that
after their mess, right? Because they destroy it, and then he has to clean it up.
Well, and it was a wreck in that building that they took over. So when does the stupidity stop? Take your damn mask off if you're so bold. I'm bold, and you can hate me for being a pro-lifer and having my show that this person went. I know who this person is that did this. It sounded exactly like them.
The best ones I saw, Veronica, was when the police started arresting people. They were yanking their masks off their face.
Oh, yeah.
And they were horrified that their faces were being exposed, It's like, yes, that's exactly what we need. Show these pictures on TV, expose these people for who they are, and they're like cockroaches. They'll start running for the dark places as soon as you start doing that, because that's exactly what they are. They're nothing but weak, miserable little cockroaches, and they need to be exterminated.
Well, and then who's going to hire your ass? Because, if you do get a real job, say, which was really interesting. I saw yesterday Bill Gates' daughter, the one that's been the equestrian, she graduated from medical school. And so they were all there at her event. But, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a Wall Streeter, if you want to be in the military, it's 365, 24/7. A lot of these professions, and they're 12-hour days, and these people are not going to make it. I'm telling you, they're not making it.
They're weak. They're weak,
So, well, the last thing in our afterburner debrief I wanted to chat with you about are the you always send me the cutest political cartoons. And they're nailed it. The first one nailed it. It's Speaker Representative Jeffries is sitting in his it's a chair that says Speaker above his name. And then he's got a little lap dog, and the little lap dog has glasses on. Oh, my. And it says Representative Johnson, and he's petting him. So, yeah, who's in charge? Who's lap dog there? Obviously, Johnson sucked, but the timing's off.
They saved his bacon, right? All the Democrats, all the Democrats, enough Democrats voted to table the motion that Marjorie Taylor Greene put out, to remove Johnson. And Jeffrey said that's exactly what they were going to do. His caucus would vote to retain Johnson, that they weren't going to let Marjorie Taylor Greene get away with it, which in some respects surprised me. But because if he had said all he had to do was just let it go and have Johnson removed, and there was a good chance that a couple more Republicans would have quit in protest, and that would have thrown the majority over to the Democrats. So that was interesting watching the political dynamics going on there.
Well, who's on our side? I mean, it's the funny thing too. The dog also has some hair that looks just like Speaker Johnson's. So the cartoonist, bravo.
Yeah, he did a
great
good job.
And then, of course, the next little cartoon, which sums up the entire week, but it's not X-rated, thank God, because to hear Stormy's testimony, so she's on the trial, and Trump's like pointing his little finger, and he goes, "By the way, Your Honor, what am I charged with anyways?" And then the judge retorts, "That does it." So, because they're dying to put him in jail. They're dying to put him in jail.
He's on trial for an unspecified crime that he's supposed to defend himself against with a jury, and they won't tell him what he's charged with. So how you mount an effective defense? See, every bit of this, Veronica, this will be appealed and overturned in nothing flat, but it's going to take a year, to get through all the process. And in the meantime, they get their conviction, of Trump was convicted. He's a convicted felon.
Want the hell. But remember when he got the mug shot, how that went viral? Remember?
Yeah.
So that went viral. And then, and so there's a bunch of conflicting things out there, because this weekend Nikki Haley was having a meeting with her donors, and everybody's still pushing Nikki Haley for the VP. But this is broken through since we've been on air, that Trump has tweeted that he's not considering her as a VP, because there was 4 names also that were released: J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, that Governor Burgum from North Dakota, and Tim Scott was the fourth one. So this woman will not go away, and she's still pushing the narrative that she's somebody, that she's meeting with her donors. But my husband had a good point. He's like, what if they put Trump in jail? Is it going to be Nikki and DeSantis? So I don't know.
No, Trump has got all the votes for the nomination. Okay, he's got the nomination sewed up. Everybody, all those delegates are pledged to vote for him on the first round. He's the nominee. Period. It's just like Joe Biden. Joe Biden has all the delegates. He's the nominee, and the only way to stop that, under the rules of the conventions, both Democrat and Republican, the only way to stop that is for the candidate to release his delegates on the first ballot. That's the only way you can change that. Otherwise, it's Biden and Trump. They've got the delegates. They're going to win at the convention. I don't care. Nikki Haley has no path. It doesn't matter if Trump, first off, Trump would not be the first candidate to run for president from prison. Okay. And I'm trying to remember, there was another guy. God, I had his name the other day. This was like a long time ago, but he was actually convicted. And this is where the the Espionage Act came from. It had something to do, when they passed the Espionage Act, they used it to get this guy that was running against, was it Wilson? I don't want to mess it up, but it was way back in the early 1900s. And they used the Espionage Act to put him in jail. Yet he was still a nominee for running for president. So it's not the first time it's happened.
Okay.
And Trump can run for prison. I mean, there's nothing. Running for president, being a convicted felon is not a disqualification, okay, for running for president. Now, what they wanted to do was declare, if the Democrats got a hold of the House, the theory was they would go back and declare Trump an insurrectionist, which would prohibit him from running for president, supposedly. But anyway, that's the only thing they could hang their hat on. But being a convicted felon is not a disqualification for running for president. So,
well, good to know. Good to know, because I don't know.
But the Democrats would use it, to say, well, Biden's not going to debate a convicted felon. That's what they're after. Okay, that's how they're going to shut the debate down. Is get Trump convicted of a felony, and then say we're not debating a felon. And I can't imagine I couldn't even imagine them putting Trump in prison, even if he is convicted, because he's going to appeal this thing. And I can't imagine him not being that the appeals court would stay any jail time, because it is anything they come up with, because there's so many errors in this trial that any appeals court that would look at it say, yeah, this is going to get overturned anyway.
Yeah, but
so.
we have to deal with the shiza until we get there to the appeals.
Right.
And it's been so freaking painful, because they don't want him out there, because Biden holds an event and nobody shows up. So,
yeah.
Oh, la la.
But that's the level of corruption we're dealing with in our government these days. People have no moral basis. Anything goes. And they're certainly proving that anything goes. They'll pervert the law, they'll subvert the law, they'll do what they need to do to get the result they want. And that's
right.
And I'm afraid that's going to come over on the election. We need to be on our game for this election. There's no red wave coming, okay? It's not a red wave election. It is going to be razor thin. They're going to lie, cheat, and steal and do everything they can to win this election. We saw it in 2020. That's what they did. And they're coming back now and they're saying Fulton County, saw the story this morning. The fraud in Fulton County in Georgia, which is right around Atlanta, okay, they think the fraud was high enough that Trump actually won the state. Yeah.
Probably did. That's what I'm concerned about, is fraud.
How much of that more are we going to see? Pennsylvania, if the absentee ballots, the fact that they broke the law to count those absentee ballots. They broke the law. They broke Pennsylvania's state constitutional law to do that. And if they hadn't done that, Trump would have won Pennsylvania. So they're not above, like I said, lying, stealing, cheating, perverting, whatever they got to do to win.
Well, obviously, because remember, we're up in the hills training. No, I actually go to the powder room to train, John. So
I think I
always be packing.
I think I go down by the river and I've got, some
That's
hill.
right.
I got
Your
some
Georgia
hills here,
house, you've got somewhere to shoot. You probably could get a turkey for dinner.
Maybe I'll find me an armadillo and shoot.
Have some armadillo soup, you Georgia people. But you're still a Florida boy, so anyways, you're a halfie now. You're a halfie.
Yeah.
But, huge show. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun with guns, girls, and greed. Plus, he said he shaved his legs for me, so, I love that.
I get that kind of offer.
I was a Blackwater Mercenary in Iraq by Morgan Lerette. He does want both of us to go leave him an Amazon 5-star, which I need to, because it was freaking a great book. I mean, if you want to, that book was like real men. You know what I'm saying, John? There was no pink hair, body piercings. You know what I'm saying? Like, this whole book, if you want to see what real men are like, this is the book for you.
We should caution people. It's got real man language, okay?
It does.
It's not something that give you
it's
kids,
probably
okay?
more of a rated R book in
Yeah.
ways, but it was, there's no wokeness. This is real men with chest on their hair. You
This
know
is
what
real
I'm
life.
saying?
It's real life.
Real life.
Right.
They're definitely killing the enemy. So put your big girl panties on if you read it. But it was outstanding, and it's fun the way he had the dialogue in there, talking to people, and it's so funny. No matter where you land, you know, because I joked how, you know, as a Catholic for Lent, I tried to give up stupid people this year, and I just had God laughed and sent me more than ever to deal with. But in every career field, in everything you do, in every sporting event, whatever, there's always somebody stupid, right? So the book has a couple of those. You know, the faker that was in there. And then we love having Chuck Perdue, our tax collector, you know, because I remember I've lived here in Florida twice, and going the first time, and it was ancient Chinese secret. You waited forever in the waiting room. Now everything's automated. It's like a Chick-fil-A experience, my pleasure. And I literally got a new tag, paid $100 and got it in 15 minutes, you know, and I had to go in because if your tag's 10 years, I'd had this tag on 2 cars for 10 years because I've been here 10 years now in Florida. Hard to believe. I had to go in and they reordered it. They gave me the new sticker, and then the new one comes. The new tag is being made by prisoners somewhere here in Florida. So, hope they like my tag. But anyways.
But we have good constitutional officers. You know, I mean,
fabulous
Chuck is
experience.
a leader. You know, Mark Anderson was a leader.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know what it is, but we are just really blessed to have these people out there.
Right. Yeah. And then we had Drew Allen, our millennial minister of truth. We keep trying to spring him out of Cali. We're getting close. I mean, he can come to my guest room anytime. So, but great discussion with everything. But anyways, great show, and hope all is well, John. And we'll catch you. We'll do an earlier this week's show because I'm going to goof off next weekend. But anyways, we'll talk and stay tuned. And all the show will be up here shortly. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Podcast Addict, YouTube, LinkedIn. We're everywhere. So check us out. If you want to be a sponsor, let us know, and would love for you to sponsor us. So we'll be back again on Veronica Live. Everybody have a blessed week. Bye.